Good evening, everyone. I'll call to order the regular meeting of the Chisholm City Council for March 24th, 2020. Margaret, could you take roll call, please?
Excuse me, Mayor, it's March 24th, 2021.
What did I say?
2020.
Oh, living in the past.
That new laptop. All right.
It's fun me. I should have it figured out.
Councillor Helderson.
Present.
Councillor Michalaraha.
Present.
Councillor Fountain.
Here.
Councillor Lance.
Here.
Councillor Bakke.
Here.
Mayor Champa.
Here. Adopt the agenda, Council. Let me try to go through these things. There were a lot, but we didn't change a lot. It just looks that way. Under Stephanie, item 1, we need to change Chisholm Beautification Association. Will actually be Chisholm Chamber of Commerce when we discuss that. Under Larry, item number 2, job description for summer seasonal casual worker. There's just some changes that Margaret sent out with that description. You might want to look at it if it's in front of you before we get there, if you have it. Just a few wording issues. I got a last minute gambling permit for the Lions Club for gyms. That looks like it wanted to be put under number 2 under Vern, and moved the law enforcement memo to 3. Brian brought forward an agreement with Michael Novakovic to try to get our project to continue moving on that 3rd Street, which that one's pretty important. I think we need to add that, which we would put him as F, moving Eileen to G, Adam to H, myself to I. And then I had the small item I wanted to add, just to clarify that if somebody moves up to replace Eileen in her absence, that we would also pay them $100. So, Council, with those changes, I'd like to entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Thank you, Adam.
Changes.
Support.
Thank you, Cheyenne. Further discussion? Margaret?
Councillor Helderson.
Aye.
Councillor Michalaraha.
Aye.
Councillor Fountain.
Aye.
Councillor Lance.
Aye.
Councillor Bakke.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Adam. Public participation. Do we have Dave Jalapa on with us? Is that the one that says Grandma Marchetti or something? Grandma's up on there? Yep, it's on there. Unmute your mic, folks. There you go.
There we go.
Good evening, Dave and Marie.
Hi, John.
I'm on this. You wait.
Okay.
Go ahead whenever you're ready.
It's your turn. Oh, I want to thank you for giving me this time. We had a little miscommunication a couple weeks ago, and I didn't get on the agenda because of the miscommunication. But just about everyone knows what the topic was, but just in case someone doesn't, what I'm concerned about is the traffic on McNiven Road. And I thought that if I could come on and give you my observations from the last 7 years living here on McNiven Road, you perhaps can better formulate a remedy to the problem. So here I will go with the observations. Less than 30% of the vehicles traveling west observe the speed limit unless they're turning onto First Avenue. Less than 10% of the vehicles traveling east observe the limit unless turning south onto First Avenue. Westbound traffic typically 45 to 60 miles an hour up to the curve before 73. Eastbound traffic typically increase speed at curve to 45 plus before reaching the First Avenue exit, which is quite a ways from the 55-mile-an-hour speed limit sign. There's been many instances of passing both east and west between the 30-mile-an-hour speed limit signs. There's been several near misses between vehicles entering McNiven due to visibility and the speed. Now, the visibility coming off First Avenue to McNiven is quite good. You can see for a long ways. But when you get someone coming 60 miles an hour and the visibility's down, there's been many people that had the speeders had to slow down because the stop sign at First Avenue is basically ignored by everyone. No one ever made a full stop there that I've ever seen. The high speeds enhance the noise issue for vehicles not meeting the noise ordinance. In other words, you get these guys with these hot trucks going 30 miles an hour, they make a little bit of noise. Going 45, 50, 60 miles an hour, they make a lot of noise. So those are my observations. And in the last couple of weeks, I've noticed a lot of patrols more than normal, probably due to my initiation of this topic. I don't know if that's produced any tickets or not. I'm not informed of that. But possible solutions is my next topic. Increased patrols, which has already happened. Park speed monitors, which I've seen a couple of. Double yellow center lines between from 73 to the 30-mile-an-hour marker going east perhaps would help. Solar-powered LEDs, reminders for westbound traffic, maybe for eastbound traffic also. Boabic has such a thing. There's a few other towns that have those reminders that blink and say, hey, buddy, slow down. Also, additional signs for children, children at play, slow zone, whatever. There's a lot of joggers and pedestrians on this road, a lot of dog walkers. I don't know what the answer is, but I thought by perhaps sharing my observations, you all can come up with the proper solutions. That's all I have.
Thank you, David. Let me respond to the patrols. When you first tried to get on with us, I didn't really know what you were coming on for. I kind of had an idea, but once you let us know, it was fed back to me why you were coming on, and it had to do with speeds and things like that on McNiven. I did ask Chief Manor to patrol a lot more, just so we could get our own sense of what was going on, and at different times of the day. So I'm going to actually ask him to give a little report. But before I mute you so you can listen in, Council, do you have anything any questions of Mr. I don't know how to spell your pronounce your name, Halapa?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct, sir.
Questions for Mr. Halapa. Like he said, he lives. If you didn't get the gist of it, he lives about halfway between Highway 73 and the water plant in McNiven. So just about where First Avenue pops out on McNiven, a little bit west of there. So, Council, anything for Dave before we mute him and I ask Chief Manor to?
Yeah, I'd just like to say, Dave, Adam Lance here. Thanks for bringing this to our attention. A lot of people don't really understand that we don't know these things until you tell us. So thank you for bringing it up. And yeah, signage out there would be a great thing. You know, sometimes I catch myself coming to town a little too fast, you know, so you know, definitely some good points. So thank you.
You're welcome.
What was?
Eileen, could you just mute Dave for now? And then I'm going to just ask Chief Manor to kind of give us a little feedback first on what he found over the last 2 weeks patrolling out there and what he tried to do schedule wise out there.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Chief, could you give me a little feedback on what your patrol has produced over the last, since I asked you to start or spend a little more time out there?
Yeah, I can, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I think it was 5 or 6 years ago, we did a speed survey out there, at which time to get a better understanding of the speed, and at which time back then we didn't, everything that was taken in the speed study through the couple weeks that we did it, everything was in the tolerable means of, or tolerable speed limits. In the last couple of weeks, I've had the guys directed to stay out there at least an hour per shift. Some of them stay a little bit more, resulting in very few traffic stops. As a matter of fact, it's a half a dozen traffic stops in 2 weeks, and none of them resulting in tickets to meet the threshold of an actual citation. So we're not seeing the speeds that that Dave is saying that he's seeing out there at all. And we've stayed in random spots to try to get a better grip on it, but we haven't seen those speeds like that.
Vern, it is a county road, so that changes everything with regard to what we can do as a city anyway, I'm assuming. There are a couple things that Mr. Jalapa mentioned that actually, it did actually intrigue me a little bit. You know, one of them being the flashing when you're coming from the 55 to the 30, when you're coming from the east. Those tend to slow me down, I know, when I see that flashing when I'm coming into communities. What is the process to do something like that or anything with that county road?
Well, you're right. We don't have just full say on that. And actually, Jim Johnson probably have a better understanding of who we have to go through, but there's a county engineer and a sign guy that have to bring that in front of their board, any of those changes when you're dealing with county roads or state roads. And they have, I believe they have final say in what any of that would be. Jim has worked more with those people than I have, but it's just not, it's just not ours, the traffic committee or the council. I could say, yeah, let's do this, because you have to take it in fact that there's also their roads. So signage, we've never purchased those signs, and whether it would be able to put up there would be up to county as well.
Okay.
I'm not, and Mr. Jalapa, where he is coming onto a right angle on that road, and especially traffic coming in. I'm sure as they pass First Avenue are over the 30 and coming in off a right angle, it seems a lot faster than seeing them come by. And I can see where he feels they're going faster, because it's very difficult coming out on a right angle. That's the unfortunate part of that road and where his house is located.
Thank you, Chief. Chief, like you said, just the stepped up patrol maybe is helping a little bit. Feel free to not back off on it for a while. We can have further discussions. Maybe we can look into some of the things if we do continue to see a problem there, or if we perceive it to be a problem that maybe we'll have to look at some of the things that Mr. Jalapa had brought up. Right, and I hope the patrols are helping. I would hope that people would be seeing that. He might have seen some near misses on First Avenue. We haven't had an accident there in a long time, so that also doesn't stick out to us as an area, because there is visibility both ways, and because we don't see near misses, unfortunately. But I'm hoping the patrols will put in people's minds that
yeah, at any given time, an officer could be sitting there, so they better slow down. So hopefully that does help and for the future.
All right, thank you, Vern. All right, thank you, David, for coming on. It's the only way we're going to hear from people. So, all right, let's move on. So tonight I asked Laura and Robert from Five Bugles to come in and discuss just kind of where we're at with the committee. You got an email earlier today. It's pretty much the newest layout on the building and the newest cost estimates, trying to bring it down to a little bit more manageable level. Eileen, could you mute David and Marie, please?
They are muted, Mayor.
Thank you. In any case, I brought Laura and Robert on to kind of go through the project, where we're at right now. They are, we have hired them to get this thing to a bid document at some point. Some of you that have been going to some of the little committee meetings are probably well aware of where we're at. We're just trying to finalize these numbers to see where we're at and get so they can finish up what they're doing for us. Is B3 design changes everything. That's basically the state of Minnesota when you're doing building a building with bonding money. They want it, which is basically it's a little better building, which changes a lot. It makes their job a little more difficult. So I just wanted to have them to come in and give just a little rough overview of where we're at on everything. And then after that, the first agenda item, I wanted to talk more about, give the council a little bit of a chance to just talk about the building there. And then we got to go through some things that Jim Johnson, Larry brought forward to see if we're going to incorporate them into the project. So Jim had emailed that out. So at this point, I'll just turn it over to Robert and Laura to get on with us and just give us a little overview of what was sent out this morning. Good evening, Laura and Robert.
Thanks, Mayor. Again, I'm Robbie Krzyzanowski. I'm the Director of Emergency Services for Wendell Companies and Five Bugles Design. And down in the corner there with the initials of LAE is Laura Eisnagel. She's the project lead on the project. I hope we're familiar faces at this point to the project and no need to further explain who we are and everything. And just to give a little background on to where we are currently in the process, we had a significant, a change, the plan on the building committee sides of things, looking for cost savings, right? Trying to reduce the cost square footage of what the facility was at. And really what it came down to is after we moved and pushed and pulled and worked with the fire department and worked with the police department and ultimately the entire building committee, we reduced about 5,680 square feet out of the facility. And, when you kind of take that into account at a $263 per square foot, analysis, it cut about $1.5 million out of the project in the end. So kudos to the departments and kudos to everybody that worked on that and got to a plan. And we'll kind of go over that plan a little bit. I'll turn it over to Laura and let her kind of show you the revised conceptual plan here in a little bit. As the mayor did bring up, there are special requirements with the bonding dollars that the state of Minnesota did give you in the B3. What we're really looking here for tonight is to come to a consensus if we like the changes that we see, and ultimately we'll move forward and basically adjust this plan and fix it up to take it to another level of more detailed schematic design and really dive into the B3 process. For those of you that aren't familiar with B3, maybe you've heard of LEED before. LEED and B3 are very similar things in the terms of sustainability on a building. There's certain exercises that they require us to do to show that we looked into things like geothermal and solar panels and various other things on a facility and show payback on those types of facilities. They have requirements that the building has to meet certain energy efficiencies. At some point after that SD level, there will be certain decisions that we'll probably have to make as a group on what to include, what not to include. We don't have to get into the weeds of the B3 tonight, but it's definitely a next step in our process of getting this plan to schematic design and working with the folks at B3 at the state of Minnesota to ultimately come up with some things that we'll have to look at as a team and kind of decide which route to go. So in that email, I kind of laid that out. Again, we can talk about energy efficiency and various other things, but until we do a little homework and have the state review this plan, this new plan, and really dive into some of these questions, I see that B3 energy efficiency thing being a future conversation for this group, and ultimately some decisions have to be made in there. I did provide some of the scope requirements. B3, if you go on Google and type in B3 Minnesota, you can learn all you want about that process. If you're looking for some reading material late at night, I suggest you look at that internet site and see how you feel about that. But I included that. I included a scope on the B3, the new design concept, and a conceptual estimate off of the plan of where I kind of think we are. I think I'm probably a little conservative overall, and that's that yellow column that was included in that email. Anywhere from $1 to $1.5 million so far we've cut out. And I know after this, Jim has some good comments that he's already kind of brought up to us, and they're really considered value engineering changes. And I think some of them are great comments, and they're probably no brainers in our eyes. And that's the type of stuff we're looking for. We call value engineering. So with that, I think what I'll do is I'll turn it over to Laura, and Laura can share the screen and just kind of walk through this revised plan. Like I said, they did a good job of working together and coming up with some solutions to try to cut costs on this building. We have a couple alternates, some shared spaces and various other things, but I'll let Laura kind of take it from here, and then we'll open it up to questions after that and see where we can go from there.
Thank you, Robbie.
I have to get permission to share my screen, actually. I'm not sure who can do that for me.
Eileen will do that for you.
I'll take care of it
Perfect.
for
Thank you,
you.
Eileen.
Sure.
Thank you, Eileen.
You're welcome.
All right. So I'm not sure how familiar everyone is with overall concept designs that we do. So I'm just going to kind of give you a basic understanding and then dive in and kind of walk through the facility for the different areas. So primarily what you're seeing here, this area here that I'm outlining in that red box, that is our main facility. And then off to the upper left-hand corner, we're showing a smaller floor plan. And in that floor plan, that is a mezzanine space where we will have our mechanical area. So just so everyone's aware, it's a one-story facility with a small mechanical mezzanine that is accessed by the hose training tower, which we'll show you when we get into it. So looking at the main floor plan here, we color code it so you can kind of tell what areas belong to which people and then which areas are considered to be shared areas or circulation areas. So the areas that are in this light red color, this pinky red color, that would be for the fire. The areas that are in the blue are for the police department. The areas in the centrally located spot that are yellow are the shared spaces, and then gray is considered to be circulation or building functions such as toilets or water room or hallways, such as that. Like Robbie said, off to the side, we do have an alternate for one more apparatus bay, and then we have an alternate at the top for our fitness center, and those are in those half color areas. So you can kind of really clearly see what you'd get for the base or what you get for the alternate if we decide to keep alternates on this plan. So down at the bottom of the sheet here is our vestibule. So I'm just going to zoom in and then we'll walk through your experience you'd experience when you're walking into the facility. So when visitors would arrive at the facility, when anyone would arrive at the facility, they could walk in through this front vestibule and they would be in a secure lobby space. From that lobby space, they really wouldn't have access to most of the facility because everything would be key card access throughout to different areas to allow different people through different areas. Off to the right-hand side, there's a small interview room. This space would be used by the police department for fingerprinting for city employees. It could be used for victims' rooms. If you're waiting for social services to come pick up children, you could use a soft interview room to, to have the children in that area. However you'd like to use that soft interview room, it's just a small room with soft seating in it. Directly above that, we're showing the reception. So this is the police department's reception counter. So if you came in and had to pay a citation or something, you'd be able to do that through a pass-through window. And these light arrows are just kind of showing tentative circulation. And off of that lobby, there's one more door you could access in the public zone, and that is a single occupancy toilet that you would be able to go through. Once you come through the lobby, then you come into a kind of a back lobby, a shared break area, which is a shared space between the fire and the police. And off that shared break area, we have entrance into the watch room / after action room for the fire department. So this room is where the fire department will kind of, if they are responding to a call, they will all come in here. They'll meet here to hear what kind of incident they're reporting to. Their radios would be stored here. Then they would be able to leave this space, go out to the apparatus space and respond to the call. If they are waiting to see if we need more people for a call, they can wait in this space. Then when returning from an incident, they'd be able to meet here as a group and discuss, what happened, the after action report, just kind of get an idea of what happened, what things they did well, what things they can improve upon, what things need to happen. If they were to do any sort of training between the fire or the police department, they could also use the space as a training room, as it will primarily be an open space with just some perimeter casework that would house like their radios and a computer and responding screen. Just to the plan north of that, we have a small office for the fire chief and the assistant chief. They can share that office together. And then to the right of that, we have the captain's office, just two small offices. So directly off the after action room, we have our fire apparatus bays. We have been showing 4 apparatus bays for quite a while now. In this plan, we are showing that we would have 3 primary apparatus as the base bid, and then we would again have that 4th as an alternate in case a budget did come in well. This last bay is extended out a little bit further, so that way the department would be able to have a workshop space on their apparatus and just have a little bit of additional storage. So off of the apparatus, we have our apparatus support. The first thing would be our gear turnout room. So this room here, room number 120, is where the department would keep their PPE in their lockers. So their PPE is their personal protection equipment. So their helmets, their jackets, their pants, that sort of thing. They would be kept in lockers here. So when responding to a call, they go into this room, grab their PPE, get out to their apparatus, and then leave the station. When returning from an incident, they would come back through this room here, which is called our gear laundry room. And in our gear laundry room, they would hopefully have done gross decon out on the scene, but they would take that PPE out of their gross decon bags, put it into an extractor so it can continue the cleaning process. So there'll be an extractor, which is like a commercial wash machine that would wash the gear. Then there'll be a dryer so they can dry their gear. There'll be a countertop space there so you can do layout to see if any damage has happened to their gear, do a little bit of an inspection. And then there'll be a boot sink and the scullery sink just to maintain and wash the rest of the equipment. So once that gear is clean, then they would have direct access back into their turnout room, which is where it would be stored. Off of that space, once they have their PPE off of their bodies and into the equipment to get it clean, now we have to move into cleaning the person. So what we have is everyone would walk through a residential laundry and into a decon hallway. Directly off of the decon hallway are 3 individual all-gender toilet rooms. So any individuals, when they're after responding from a call, can come and clean off all the carcinogens off their skin and make sure that they can, be clean before they go back to their jobs. Following their shower, what they would be able to do is go back into this residential laundry area, and there'll be a washer and dryer for their clothing that was underneath their PPE. The goal here is to make sure that if they were responding to any sort of an incident that had any sort of carcinogens, if it came through their PPE and got on their civilian clothing, they'd be able to wash this and wash it here and keep that here before taking it home to their families. So 2 more spaces that we have off of the apparatus for the apparatus support. We have our SCBA clean and fill / workroom. So this space will be where they clean their SCBA. So SCBA is the self-contained breathing apparatus. They can wash and clean that here in this space, and then workroom, just having some additional tools and functions such as that. Then directly Plant north from there, we have our hose, training tower, and access up to our mezzanine. So this is a staircase that goes 3 stories in the air. It is multi-purpose. So one, we will dry the hoses. So if a hose is used during an incident, then they can hang it in here, let it dry out. Second would be access up to the mezzanine space, which again was up in that upper left-hand corner of the page. And then the third would be they will use it for training. So out of this particular tower, what they can do is they can practice rappelling, they can practice ladder training, they can do confined space training. There'll be a chargeable standpipe in the corner so they can practice their standpipe connections, just to make sure that when they do respond to an incident, they can be as prepared as possible. So going back down into the shared space, that's the yellow. Again, we have our vestibule, you walk into the lobby, and you walk into the shared break space. So off of there, we'll go over to the police side of things. So through the shared area, we have
Uh-oh. Did I get lost or did Laura?
Got some, I think her audio went off.
No.
Here she comes back. You're on mute though, Laura.
Are you able to hear me again?
Yep, we can hear you.
Perfect. All right, so I don't know what happened. My phone cut out for some reason. So this is the police briefing squad room. Off of this space, we would have the patrol officers would have a space that they can be situated in when they are writing reports and doing different things that take place outside of their squad cars. It's also a workroom, so we would have some shelving there for, different books or resource manuals that they might need. There'll be a printer there in case they need to collate anything. So that's what this room is used for. Off of the briefing squad room, we have maintained our 3 offices that the police department requires. So one is the captain's office, an administrative assistant office, and then the police room. We also have a small room, a small conference room that can be used for debriefing if the briefing squad room has a lot going on, or if there's an investigation of any sort that needs to happen, or private conversations, we'd have that in the small conference room. And then directly planned north of that, we have our storage room, which could be used as a future office in the future. Through this briefing squad room, we then have a hallway vestibule out into our sally port. So our sally port is sized currently that we could fit 5 to 6 squad cars in it. So we would be having them double stacked in bays 1 and 2. And then sally port 3 would be able to fit at least 1 vehicle in there, possibly 2, depending on how we have it stored in there. And then at the back, we have our large evidence storage. So if the police department were in need to store something such as a vehicle, this would be a spot that they could store that while it was under investigation. Coming off the sally port then, plan north again, we come into a hallway. This is a secured hallway. So if the police were bringing in anybody that needed to go into the booking area, they would bring them from the sally port through this hallway into the booking room. Directly off the booking room, we have a hard interview room and a soft interview room, which are separated. So we can have acoustical privacy between the 2. And then we also have a toilet. So if someone who is being brought in were to have been maced or have some sort of other liquid on them, they can be washed off in that area. Also access from this hallway is our evidence intake and our evidence storage room with our special container space for the guns, money, and drugs evidence. One more door off this hallway leads us out to Plan East here, which would be to the impound lot, which we would have more large evidence storage if needed. Finally, the last space that we are showing here for the police, or dedicated to the police, are the police locker room. So this space is sized that we would be able to have adequate space for the police to have their locker room to store their items during the day. Then they would share the decon toilets with the fire department. So instead of having dedicated police and dedicated fire toilets and shower rooms, they would share them. The goal with this police locker room is that people would not actually change their clothing in the locker room. It's just where they store their items, and then they would do all of the changing and anything like that in the individual decon toilet spaces. So that way we can just have one locker room for all genders to use. Finally, the last space that we have that is a shared space and a shared plan or space at all is Directly off the shared break room, if you go down the decon hallway, there'd be the potential for a fitness space, which is an alternate bed. So overall, again, this is the overall building square footage. And to orient everybody, I keep saying plan north, which is up. But if y'all are familiar with the site, north is on the left, south is on the right. Any questions?
Laura, I just have a comment. I like how the end result ended up with that shared break room in the middle, where the police are able to get to the fire department watchroom relatively easy, only because they had a concern that they might need to use it occasionally if something happens where they need a little bigger space. So that's really nice how you tied that together. And just an opinion, that little tiny mini room up there that says guns on the top, I would probably just come up with a different word for that room. Right now, call it something evidence. Take those words off now that we all have seen it.
Yep, we can do that for sure. Yep, it just needs, we have special ventilation requirements for that space, so that does have to be separated.
Yep. Council, we're going to take this up almost immediately after I finish the discussion and talk about these other items. So anything for Robbie and Laura right now, or you want to just move on to the regular meeting?
Thanks, Robbie and Laura.
Thanks, Adam.
We'll stick around, Mayor, to kind of listen in on the other discussions and then the things that Jim had, and if we can offer any input, we'll certainly hang around.
All right, sounds good, guys.
Thank you.
All right, that concludes public participation. We'll move on to our council reports. I'll start over on my far right with Marty. Good evening, Marty. Report tonight.
Good morning. I attended 2 Zoom meetings regarding Redhead Mountain Bike Trail. One meeting was about the physical condition of the trail, some maintenance, money that's probably going to be spent, and that'll be upcoming. And we talked about the signage as well, that needs to get updated. And the other meeting was about the grand opening coming up at the end of June. It'll be the last weekend in June. That's all I have.
Council, anything for Marty? Marty, just a question, just because you were there. Is the trail completed for the most part, other than signage, for what they were going to get done?
I think they are done building.
Okay.
I don't think they're going to do any more building until, or if we get more grant money for another big expansion. But there are a few small maintenance areas that will be dipping into the maintenance grant. It's not a lot of money or a lot of work, but there's a few small areas to fix up.
Council, just an FYI to kind of spin off of Marty there. That'll have to come back to the council one more time when we add the rest of the new construction. So one more time. So we'll be able to see that. We'll be able to ask questions, make sure the signage is all in place. Thank you, Marty. We'll move on to April. April, report tonight.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I'm just going to liven this council up a little bit. Good evening, everyone. Happy National Women's History Month. I just have to say that. It's been a very busy and productive month for the city of Chisholm. On the 11th, I attended a community education meeting, and the release of the new spring flyer has come out. There's lots of programs they are offering, mostly online, and they are also partnering with other communities on the Iron Range to be able to offer more programs via Zoom. On the 12th, I attended a campground meeting. We discussed grant opportunities, highway billboards and signs, campground host options, campground rules, advertising, and maybe Stephanie will be able to touch more on this as well in her report. Anyone not looking to cook for Easter this year? Valentini's will have a meal available to purchase from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. And also, Jim's Sports Club Bar and Grill will have an Easter buffet from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And you can also order online from Jim's as well. And that's something new that they have going on. So I'll have to check that out. Range Center is hiring. As you all know, I also work there as my second job. So we're hiring for program supervisors, direct support professionals, LPNs, direct support professional day service workers. So that's working up in the DAC, and a dietary instructor. Also, if anybody would like more information on getting the vaccine, contact Casey's Drugs to schedule a vaccine if you're interested. And also, the St. Louis County has a scheduling line. You can call at 218-726-2623 if you're interested. Also, the City of Chisholm is hiring temporary seasonal positions. So please get your application online. Right now we have openings for recreational aides and pretty soon for public works for the summer. So thank you.
Thank you, April. Just a little spin off of what April said with the vaccines. They're pretty much open to anybody now. Casey's kind of follows what the county does. And pretty much unless you answer that you don't qualify, you qualify nowadays. They've opened it wide open. So anybody that wants one now, you can sign up. So that's good news. Council, anything else on what April said before we move on? Travis, report tonight. Good evening.
Good evening. I will carry on where April left off. All right. April 6th from 3 to 4:30 is a comprehensive plan meeting, and that is open to the public for viewing. Let's see. The new website, we got a little sneak peek. Looks great. Thank you, Steph, for that. At last Friday, we had 14 applicants for our administrator position, which is very exciting. The position closes tomorrow, Thursday. The chamber is having a full raffle event that we're hopefully going to approve tonight. That will happen in May. I have started working on softball, so that information will be coming out soon. We are looking this year at Tuesday nights for the men and Wednesday for the women. Our goal is to have 6. We figure we can have 6 teams, both men and women, in order to utilize both fields for that. And finally, Kiwanis. I've been attending the Kiwanis meetings. I am running the Miss Chisholm event this year. I am happy to announce that there are 9 junior girls this year that are going to be vying for Miss Chisholm. So that's exciting. Much more to come on that in the coming weeks for that. And the last thing that I need to mention for Kiwanis is looking for a legacy project to do in Chisholm. And Brian and I will need to touch base here very shortly. We are trying to debate a pool versus a splash pad. And so I need your input on that and more information on that to follow as well. But that is on the Kiwanis list of things to do. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Hey, Travis, before you sign off, you mentioned a comprehensive plan and the public being able to listen in. Thoughts on how they would do that?
Steph?
I don't have that information for this meeting today. We do have the www.planchisholm.org website. The information should be coming up on there.
Thank you. Council, anything else for Travis or that he mentioned there?
Yeah, what time is the comprehensive plan meeting? Was that 4:30? Did I hear that correctly?
3 to 4:30.
3 to 4:30. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Mr. Mayor, at some, I don't know if Brian or Vern is going to mention this, but we should at some point discuss the blight issue that was brought up in the email we got. So.
Thank you. Cheyenne, report tonight. Good evening.
Good evening. No report.
Thank you. Adam, report tonight. Good evening.
Good evening, everybody. No report.
Thank you, Adam. All right, let me kind of see what I got here. I got all kinds of things. Emergency management position. As you know, we set up a hiring committee. We established wages for that position. Margaret asked me earlier this week, when are we going to post? And I told her, as far as I know, everything's ready to go. Just let's get it internally posted. So I was just going to make that informational, and we'll get it posted and internally like we anticipated, and the committee can get started and bring us back their candidate. I think everything is done with that. So it just kind of was an oversight, but we should be able to go ahead with that. Just a quick report on Ironbound. As you know, I think it was about 2 days after our last meeting, if I recall, was their deadline to be out of downstairs. I received a call on Thursday from the main person, which I did not reply to. I actually had our attorney reach out and tell him that at midnight on Friday night that we are requiring them to be gone. I went as far as to direct the public works supervisor to bring in a locksmith so that they're very aware that they're not allowed in there anymore. So they have moved out. It appears that they've moved out without further incident. We're in the process of cleaning up that area with the city crews and inventorying anything that was left behind to, at a later date, determine what we're going to do with the items that are left behind, whether we keep them for the city or sell them. But that'll be yet to be determined. We're not really hurrying. We're just kind of waiting to see how this all shakes out. But they have moved out. So everything that went on, that's good news. Attended a meeting today with other mayors and administrators from across the Iron Range and further with regard to the recovery bill. As you may have heard, Chisholm is looking to receive $550,000 in that recovery bill. But it sounded to me like there's quite a bit more money floating around. So I was looking at it a little bit different. I think there's infrastructure money and some other things that are floating around. So I'm going to dig a little bit more into that with Eileen and just see. Nick Dragovich from Baker Tilly actually put on the thing. So we were going to probably reach out to them to see if there's any other money that we could leverage. The $550K as a community and as a staff and council here, we'll go through that at some later date, figure out how we're going to use that. But that's coming either way. So I was more concerned about any additional monies that may be floating around that we can leverage, because we certainly could use every penny we can get. HRA, just highlights from our meeting. We submitted our 5-year plan. We submit a 5-year plan every year to the housing folks. That allows us to get our yearly funding. And that 5-year plan changes slightly every year. That's why they have us resubmit it. And then we also updated our capital projects list for this coming summer, basically. The main project we're going to be doing is we're going to be replacing the roof on that long-year terrace down by the lake. I'm sure a few of you have heard about that building and the leaking on it. We did repair the leaks last year, but we're gonna fix the roof. But that pretty much that burns up 400-some thousand of our $500-some thousand. So I've already reached out to a few of our local representatives to see if there's any help they can give us there. The other item we're looking at with the remaining money is we need to do some work on the Mapleview site for the HRA, which is the brick buildings that would be directly across the highway from our campground. We have a tough time renting those buildings because they're really small efficiencies. And in addition to putting new roofs on them, we're going to talk with the housing folks, Minnesota Housing, to see if they'll allow us to reduce the number of them and double the size of them to make them bigger apartments. They'll still be one bedroom, but they'll be much bigger, so you could actually have a husband and wife living in there pretty comfortably instead of, you know, one person. So still looking for a member on the HRA. Public Utilities Commission, I'll just mention a couple things about that. We discussed the water, sewer, and solid rate study a little bit. It's not done yet. They presented a preliminary copy, and I think Eileen and Larry are questioning how they came up with some of the things that they didn't feel were completely on the same page as the city on. So they're trying to finalize that, and I think the council will see that final draft after the Public Utilities Commission has an opportunity to look at it. One item that was brought up by Eileen during that meeting was the money that's in arrears with our utilities in the city. As you know, under the governor's orders, you can't evict people. You really can't get them to pay utilities, and we're getting quite a substantial number there. Over $100,000. Obviously, it varies, but as people pay and others get further behind. But you know, once the governor lifts the orders, these people are going to have some problems. So there's not a lot we can do. We can't keep providing utilities for free. On the garbage side, I asked Larry a real simple question the other day. He mentioned when we first started the garbage program that he thought the garbage program would be about 1.5 employees to run our garbage program as far as running the trucks. And he feels that he's right in about that area. I think he mentioned in that discussion that we're picking up a number of commercials that were commercial customers that were being serviced by private companies, which is going to help our bottom line as well. Let's see, I think I had one more on that public utilities and then I'm done. The last item was public utilities started talking about the camera again. They want to buy a camera. They want to do it with public utilities money. It's going to come to the, at some point after the city is currently in the process of reviewing different cameras that can go further down sewers. After they're done reviewing them, they're going to bring it to the Public Utilities Commission. I believe the Public Utilities Commission is in favor of using some of the water sewer money to purchase that camera, but the council will have a final decision on that. So I think that's everything I had. I think I said enough. Council, any questions on any of that before we move on? All right, thank you. That concludes the council reports. We'll move on to Mandy. Good evening, Mandy. Do you have a report tonight?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I don't have a formal report tonight. Available for any questions if anyone has any.
Council, anything for Mandy? Thank you, Mandy. EDA Stephanie report tonight. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Just a quick report. I want to thank Councilor Felton for bringing up the progress that we have at the campground. We're just getting prepared for a busy summer. I have some grant applications coming up in the packet. And then I also just wanted to notify the council that we're working on a collaborative marketing effort called Ride the Range. It's with the Kailuna, Tioga, Redhead, and Giants Ridge mountain bike park trails. So just being able to collaborate our efforts together and do some really great marketing through them. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Stephanie. Council, anything for Stephanie? All right, we'll move on. City Engineer Jim, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. I have no formal report, but would be happy to answer any questions that the council may have. Thank you.
Council, anything for Jim? Thank you. Public Works, Larry, report tonight.
Evening, everybody. Most of you seen Mother Nature today, just like we did. And we were thankful this morning to wake up with not the 1 to 3 inches that they forecasted, or another 3 to 5 all day. The streets warmed up enough with a little bit of salt and sand that it took care of the slush and everything. And we should be okay throughout the night. We think maybe a little sanding in the morning, and we're going to get back to spring there, that early spring that we were all enjoying. And then we were going to start sweeping. I've gotten several calls already this week. People are excited. They're all walking around and cleaning their yards, and they were waiting for the sweeping to take place. And we were actually going to start that tomorrow. But now it'll be a little bit wet and icky out. So it'll probably be Friday before we get to it. And then we'll hit it all next week on the days that we're able. And we're going to expand a little bit this year. We're going to sweep some areas. Some folks in town are going to see the sweeper that they've never seen before. Generally speaking, the city's always just swept curb and gutter areas. And we're going to expand that a little bit. And we're also going to do sidewalks, the ped ramp aprons there that seem to hold a lot of material. And, frankly, if someone is trying to use the ped ramp with a wheelchair and they encounter an inch of sand, that doesn't help anybody. So we're gonna expand the sweeping and maintenance a little bit this spring, and even some driveway aprons in some of those areas that some of our newer areas where it's all it's not grassy or anything in between the cracks. We are working downstairs in Ironbone. This is actually a really good time. With the spring break up here, when it's chilly in the morning, we can't really fix. The ground is still frozen yet, from plowing and that. So we're working in Ironbone. We've hauled 3 full garbage truck loads over to the dump already over in Virginia. And we anticipate to do 2 a day now until we're cleaned up, hopefully by the end of the week. The plan is down there, once we're actually get cleaned and get rid of the obvious garbage, then we'll be able to see exactly what we got down there, and we'll come up with a better plan, and we'll keep everybody up to date. Like April and Stephanie said, the campground is going very well. Reservations, I just, the phone beeps all day long. I monitor the email and account and the iPhone in the off season, and it's great. It's beeping every day. We're getting filled up for Memorial Weekend already, Labor Day already, 4th of July. It's going to be great. So we got campers coming in earlier than ever. We have 2 seasonal campers in already. We're taking in 2 more next week. And after that, just right into May, it's just bang, bang, bang. So it's really great. Looking forward to that in a good season. The casual labors we talked about, that's on the agenda tonight, so I won't touch much on that. Besides, we'll be offering up to 16 positions again this year with your support, of course. We ordered the flags. We were able to get that ordered. I did that. We had a little bit of a scare. It's about a 60-day order time because of the mass. Some of these manufacturers have moved their production into mass because of the profitability and the need, of course, supply and demand. But we feel we'll be able to get our flags up by Memorial Day for sure, like usual. And then I had a fair board meeting. We're going to work with them for some overload camping, we hope, at the up there. And they have some concerns and some stuff we got to work through, but there always is. So we'll get through that. And then finally, over the last 2 years, I've always come to council with some of these big purchases, give you a heads up. There's a bucket truck budgeted this year, and I'm aggressively working on that to try to get that finalized and bought here going into spring when we do need to put them flags up and when we get into summer when things really start to switch and get busy here. So with that, we're selling those surplus garbage cans over there. Hope to have that posted within the next 2 weeks. I got to work with Attorney Lindsay on that a little bit, but I think we have a plan, and we'll work through it. Anything else for me?
Larry, I have a couple of questions. You are keeping track of all your time down there getting rid of the garbage, right?
Absolutely, and I have receipts over at the landfill and stuff. Absolutely.
I don't know what we're going to do with them yet, but I think we'll keep them for now. And then, we have that area that had the trailer houses and still has one that we can't get rid of at the time. But are we thinking as a campground committee what the plan will be for that area? And I'm hearing there's some money for things like that through the Iron Range Resources. Or have we researched that at all? Because
we have, Mayor. Stephanie spoke to it a little bit. She just went out for some grant. We're working with our partners at Minnesota Power and some other sources as well. And we think we're going to, if we get some of the money that we put out for, we think we're going to have a really good year. And we've also been working with Chief Manor there and also Brian Lindsay on that trailer that you spoke up to that we've been talking about forever. So I think we're going to have a plan relatively soon to move forward on that as well.
Perfect. Council, anything for Larry? Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
Fire Chief Chris, good evening. Report tonight.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, Council. I'll just start out. We're at 29 calls for the year so far, so an average call load. We're gonna have a busy April. We'll be training every Wednesday in April on that house we acquired for the burn on May 8th. So we'll be doing lots of different things down there for the month of April. Talked to Larry last week. You want to know if we could do some burning on the east and west entrances of Chisholm for the grass. So we're going to try to get out there next Wednesday and clean it up a little. There might be some grant money available. The FEMA gave the Minnesota State Fire Department Association $1.4 million to distribute for recruitment, retention, and for gear reimbursement. So me and Assistant Chief Worley are going to sit down on that webinar in the coming weeks here and see if we qualify or if we could possibly get in on that grant. And then safety tip for everybody, please stay off the ice. We did have a side-by-side go through the ice on Saturday, about 10 feet off the lake. Lucky it wasn't in the middle. The ice is not safe. We were able to get the machine out and the people were okay, but please let everybody know, do not go on the lake. We don't want to be out there and don't want to, have anybody, really get hurt. So make sure everybody knows that. That's all I have.
Thank you, Chris. Anything for the fire chief? Chris, just a little spin off of your safety tip for the firefighters. I'm sure you do this often, but always a reminder that what you guys do for a living is dangerous. And always keep that in mind.
Thank you.
Sometimes people get a little lazy on being careful when you've been doing it forever the same way, So Thank you. Library, Katie, report tonight. Good evening.
Hey, good evening, everyone. I just wanted to give a quick update on the construction at the library. Max Gray finished up the circulation desk on Monday, and I met with Architectural Resources and Max Gray today just to go through a final punch list, and we're super happy with how it looks. Mandy also was able to come visit with us today and review everything, and so far we're super happy with how it turned out. It looks really, really nice in there. So just going through the final punch list in the next week or so, finish a few things up, and then start transitioning back into that space and running cords and working with Dwayne with the new phone system. So all is good. And I think that's about it.
Thank you, Katie, for bringing that up. I forgot I was going to kind of talk about those projects. So do you feel that we might be a little way away in your area, but as far as opening again someday, I think you got a tough situation there with, a whole building and people wandering around looking at books once you open. So thoughts on that? We're not there yet, right?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a loaded question. At some point, I think we need to move forward and start opening things up. I don't think we're quite at that space yet, and there's definitely some concerns and some questions we have to talk about. But it's a conversation that my staff and I are continuing to have right now because we do know, that conversation is happening. So yeah, that's kind of where we are with it. There's still some questions to figure out, but I know we're moving in that direction.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you. Council, anything for Katie? Police chief report tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a few things. Travis, thanks for bringing that up. Hopefully Brian and I can have something for next meeting. to come to strengthen up that blight ordinance a little bit. Looking at trying to make some mandatory appearance tickets. And right now with COVID yet, court isn't proceeding as normal. But I'd like to get in front of that. So eventually, even if it's next year, we've gotten this taken care of, and we can don't have to. Might as well reinvent the wheel while things are slow than being behind the 8 ball. Obviously, with the thawing, let it snow. I'm okay with this. But since we're 2 months ahead of time with the snow being gone until today, blight procedures are stepping up earlier than normal. Just that quick update that Katie mentioned it, the phones, and Dwayne, last meeting I said the phones would be active today. Dwayne is still waiting for that port from the state. He's expecting it next week, but he did send out all the materials, some videos and written materials to Eileen, who dispersed them to all the departments. So we're getting training on the phones, and hopefully next week, one day, is the big turnover and the switch over. So that's where we're at. And one other quick update, Mr. Mayor, you'll be interested in this. When I was talking, still looking at internet service for the city, and I was working on that with Mr. Manny, and I'm still working and getting some information. And I found out that not only was the fiber at the time run to the police department and the library for free, the city hall has fiber, and it's probably had it for about 5-6 years, and you've been running off a non-fiber system where we could have had Wi-Fi and everything else there for the last several years. So we're not being charged for it. It's a blackened line right now, but it's a small fee to get that fiber up and running. And yeah, it's already at City Hall. So that kind of changes the outlook on a few of our talks and our discussions about internet. And hopefully in the next couple of weeks, I'll be bringing what I've learned to the council so we can have a healthy discussion on where we're going to go with internet for the city.
Bert, I appreciate that. As you were talking, I was thinking of myself. I never asked you if you had dug into the whole internet thing any further after we had that discussion that day. So that's good to hear. Same thing I told Chris, what you guys do for a living is dangerous. Don't hesitate to remind your officers every once in a while.
Yep, thank you. We have an officers meeting tomorrow, and safety and mental health are two of our biggest things. So we'll make sure I pass that along. Thank you.
Council, anything for the chief? Thank you. Rec Director Tammy, report tonight.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. The athletic director from Mount Iron Buell had contacted me, and they would like to rent the track for at least 3 meets, maybe a couple more. They've also been in contact with the school and to correlate dates. And I did tell them that we had a council meeting tonight that I would bring it to your attention, but action probably can't be taken until our next meeting. So he says they would be looking at dates later on. So this would be an opportunity for us to raise some funds. And I would think that the attorney would probably have to drop somewhat of an agreement. Sorry, Brian. But what do you think of that? Good idea?
I like it. Obviously, with anybody using our facilities like that, we're still under COVID plans, so we might have to come up with some type of a pretty basic COVID plan to make sure, well, we're still under governor's orders, but that should be pretty easy. We're using them, so.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of charge that we should make on something like this, but we could have a discussion later. Or if anyone has any ideas or input, would be greatly appreciated.
There's people in this meeting probably that know more about this than I do, but do we have any conflicts with the agreement we have with the school that they kind of have a contract to use our facilities for us to use them ourselves?
Jamie Steinberg is the one that had originally sent me the email from the school. And he gave a list of dates that were absolute no's for them to use it. And days that would work with them. Because I would think that the Chisholm kids then would attend some of these meets also. So it would be kind of a win for our kids. So I think it would work out. I could make a call to the superintendent and see if they're okay with it, the school too. I'll contact the school.
Yeah, well, I know if there's a way to generate money and work with our neighbors, I can tell you I'm on board. I don't know how the rest of the council feels, if they want to chime in.
See, the one caveat to them, if they don't host 3 meets, they're not eligible to go on in state and stuff, is what my understanding was.
I support that, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. I'm very, very happy to hear that. I think it could open up a lot of doors for us too, if we start to let people know that our facilities are able to be used. And also just to touch on the COVID, the high school league, who would be responsible for the meet, they have COVID restrictions and full guidelines. So I assume we would just need to get a copy of that to Brian for him to take a peek at. But they do set all the guidelines prior to the season starting. So I do know that much.
Okay, thank you, Travis. And then I've got some really good news. I got an email this week from the DNR, and they found the funds to put in the new pier. So I was pretty excited to get that email. They're going to be in contact. Again, we would have the $10,000 match that I said that we had budgeted for, and a use of a loader and a little bit of manpower. So I think our community is really going to enjoy that new pier this summer. Also, summer rec applications are due April 9th. Get them in. Soccer registrations are due on April 8th. And I've been in contact with the Balkan, and they had emailed me if there was anything that we could do in joint efforts or support each other. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll send you soccer registrations. And I also sent them the information about hiring our casual laborers and rec employees. I passed the information on to Katie. I think this is going to be a really good step for our community to start joining forces on activities and sharing. And I peeked on their website, and they put that stuff on their website that I had sent them. So if anybody has information that they want to share with Balkan, just get a hold of me and I can give you their email.
Thank you, Tammy. A lot of good news there. Council, anything else for Tammy? Thank you. City Attorney, Brian, report tonight.
Thank you, Mayor. No formal report. I am happy to answer any questions. I know I've got some agenda items coming, and just to kind of follow and speak briefly about that, the potential shared use of the track or allow the track to be used. I think that we did allow Mountain Iron Buell to come in and use the track when their new facility was being constructed. And I think I've got a prearranged agreement. So if there is interest there, we can probably follow it up pretty quickly.
Brian, they never ended up getting back to me after you had drawn up that contract. So if you could email me that contract, or if you want to fix it up a little or whatever, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Council, anything for the attorney? Administrator Zaw, good evening. Report tonight.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. So a couple things. I wanted to let you know, I believe City Hall renovations are pretty much complete, with the exception of the desks needing to be installed in the front part of City Hall for Denise and Christy. I believe those are scheduled to be received and installed on the 8th of April. So it's approaching soon. I did receive Dave Rapucci's final invoice, so I have that under review. So I'm going to make sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. I also wanted to give you a status of just where I'm at in my work. First of all, I apologize. I wanted to say thank you very much, Mayor, for your support, and me taking some time off next week to catch up on homework. I really do appreciate that. But some of the deputy clerk duties that I'm doing now, it really is methodical, and I take great strides in honoring my fiduciary responsibilities, so I never rush in these things. But it is on the back burner right now as far as where I'm at in fulfilling those. Human resources is a really big portion of what I address on a daily basis. So I just wanted to stress to council the need for us to have an HR person going forward. Just to give you some insight of the day-to-day activity here at City Hall. The last thing I wanted to mention is this is something I brought up in the department staff meeting this week, and the mayor so eloquently provided his support that DDA, the organization we are utilizing to place the new city administrator. The mayor had indicated that the department heads are going to be part of that process. It's going to be a collaborative effort. But I just wanted to mention to council that as department heads, we're here to give you any insight that you might need when you formulate your perspective about potential candidates after you review their credentials, their videos. When we first started this process, we had a different perspective, at least I know I did, about this job. And now it's changed quite dramatically. And so I have a totally different perspective and can give you information about what I feel, the skill level and the requirements that that particular person needs to fulfill, as well as other department heads, right? We're right in the, we're in the nitty gritty now. And so I just wanted to offer that to you. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Council, anything for Eileen? Thank you, Eileen. The most important thing is you got to have your home life squared away. It's easier to do your job then. So we got to make sure we give you a good balance here. It's the best we can do. All right, we'll move on, council. We'll move on to the consent agenda. This is your list of bills that Eileen sent over a little earlier tonight. Communications, which are the Airport Authority minutes, Public Utility Commission minutes, minutes of previous city council meetings approved, March 3rd, 2021 working session minutes, March 10th, 2021 regular meeting, payroll, and overtime. So I get motion to accept the consent agenda.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Fountain.
Thank you, April. Second for that motion.
Second.
Seconded by Marty. Thank you, Marty. Margaret? Any changes before we do that? I'm sorry, Margaret. Anything you've seen there that was a typo or anything in the minutes, council? All right, sorry about that. Go ahead, Margaret.
Counselor Halverson.
Aye.
Counselor Mikala-Raha.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Baki.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Okay, that motion passes. New business. Council, I'd like to just say a few things before we start talking about this. Many of us got into this project a little bit late. For the most part, the building, the concept of the building and what we all envisioned it to look like, or the staff envisioned it to look like, was all sitting in front of us when Travis and April and Adam and myself came in. And I believe Marty and Cheyenne maybe were involved on the early end, having served on a previous council. I don't think I held back when I said I don't believe that a city should be leasing a building and, essential building such as a public safety building. And that's why I tried to pull the reins back in when I got elected, because I feel that, we can either afford this building or we can't. And that's the bottom line. When I started looking at the original plans for the drawing, it absolutely was a beautiful building. But unfortunately, when the council is looking at it from a lease standpoint, you can look at it completely different, because you're looking at a yearly payment. You're not looking at having to pay for the building up front or trying to knock a bunch of it off. I believe what we're looking at here, I think is a pretty good balance, what Robert and Laura brought to us earlier today and what the committee came up with. It's not everything that we would hope for or we would love to have, I should say. But I believe that our chiefs and our police and fire believe it'll work for them at this point. I could be wrong. I'd be happy to hear from them tonight, but I think it's very workable. It's going to be a beautiful building. And not only is it a little bit more affordable, but we still have some options to save some money along the way here. If the numbers don't come back the way we need them to. I like the flow of the new building. I like how it ties together much better than the way I did. I like that we're going to bid that fourth bay as an alternate. And I like that we're going to bid the fitness center as an alternate, because should the numbers come back or we find some additional money maybe during this recovery bill or in this recovery bill, that maybe we can do things like that. So I think it's a nice building. It has a lot of I'm very happy with it, and I think the numbers are closer. Some of you may remember that I asked a question, or I had Bill ask the question of Sterl, how much money we could use out of our reserves to pay for this building, and I think the number came back $4 to $5 million. If you err on the side of 4, because we kind of committed to Councillor Vaki that, we'd like to try to do a big mill and overlay project. We might need some money. You figure 4 there, you figure $1.91 million from the state bonding bill. You figure, possibly as much as $500,000 in infrastructure money from Iron Range Resources. We're hopeful for that. And then because it's a year-long project, we have an opportunity to, look at our budget for next year if we need a little bit money. That coupled with that the USDA, I believe, Stephanie, their loans are less than a 2% interest rate if we decided to borrow a little bit of the money in lieu of using some of our reserves. So I think the building is much more obtainable in its current form. So, Council, the first thing I wanted to do here was just, some of you haven't been involved in the process since some of the early drawings. Some of you have been at all the little meetings we've had with Five Bugles, Wendell. Just a little feedback, Robert and Laura and the staff they're ready to get this thing back in a plan and spec form. They want to hear the last little, the last from the council before they finish up, things like that, and then I'd like to talk about the items that Jim and Larry brought forward in an email. So, Council, at this point, I just open it up. Like I said, I'm not really looking for anything, but I know that we got to get a thumbs up, thumbs down, and get this thing rolling. So, how's the council feel? Somebody want to chime in?
I'll go first. I'm very happy with where we're at right now. Obviously, the smaller footprint, it would have been nice to have the community room and that kind of stuff, but we had to make cuts. I did like that we did incorporate mezzanine for storage, so we are going to pick up some of the areas that we're missing. But no, I agree. I think it's going to be a beautiful building. I think it's great for everybody. I think the police side and the fire side are going to, we already work together anyway, so if there's anything we need to do, we can, collaborate. But no, I'm very happy.
Do you feel the size is okay, Adam? I don't know what you use for space. Obviously, I'm not a firefighter. I'm not a police officer. I know Marty had some concerns based on square footage. I think I seen an email. He was asking Robert about it, but I just gotta believe it's gonna work better than what you guys are using right now. I just can't not believe that that's the case.
I think no matter what, and everybody on both departments will agree that anything's better than what we have right now. My main concern is the safety. Anytime anybody wants to come down on a Monday night or a Wednesday night when we're moving trucks or anytime after we've had a call, come down and watch. We have people and then, like the younger drivers out here that don't know or they're not getting taught to stop for emergency vehicles. We have near misses. We have a fire engine blocking the intersection and we have people swerving in between the engine and the fire hall, almost onto the sidewalk. We have people cutting around the front of it as it's blocking, an area. We have children coming and going from the school. And once the youth center opens back up, it's just a bad area. So safety is just a number one thing. But obviously, we'd like to have it bigger. More storage is always needed. More office space is always needed for future growth. But, the way it sits right now, I guarantee everybody will make this work. And I think it will be adequate.
Thank you. Council, anybody else want to chime in, or either one of our chiefs would be fine as well?
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Marty.
So are we going to have Baker Tilly put together our final financial package for funding this construction? Whether this whole combination of city money, grant money, potential low interest loans, bonds, whatever, are we going to rely on Baker Tilly to put the financial package together for this construction?
I think we'll have to have that discussion amongst us as a council to see if we got some spots we need them to fill in. I think we'll have to. I asked Eileen today one thing. A big part of this is we have some money obviously in the bank, and I want to revisit that first to see how much we realistically can spend and see where we're at. We know we got 1.91 or whatever from bonding. Stephanie's already talking with Iron Range Resource to see how we can apply for some infrastructure money. A Baker Tilly costs us money to put that together, but yeah, we got time. I think Robert's a couple of months out to get final plans and specs ready. So yeah, I think we got time to finish that discussion. We may need to. Anything else, Council?
Mr. Mayor, a couple things. First of all, I like the floor plan. Everybody knows how I feel about the process of how it went about, so I won't go into that. But I do have a couple of questions, maybe concerns, maybe. One being, is there a specific reason why the B3 went on the back burner and now it's on the front burner? Because that probably should have been captured right away. And then my other concern would be, or I guess question, not a concern, but my other question would be, it's a 2021 building, so why would we not have the most up-to-date solar panels and electricity savings? So, HVAC systems, why would that be something new? I guess if that could be cleared up.
So let me try to help first. And then, so the B3 isn't new, but it's complicated. A couple of meetings ago, Scott brought up the B3. I don't know 100% if Robert knew at that point that it had to be B3. I think it might have been missed. I'll let Robert chime in if he wants to on that. But it has to be that way because it's a bonding bill. But when we make changes, it makes a big change with that B3. So that's why it took him so long. The other part you mentioned about solar and this and that, Larry is actually trying to get our person from Minnesota Power more involved with Robert now as he starts doing some of that stuff in this building, because the Minnesota Power guy that Larry works with knows all about the whole B3 thing with regard to heating, air conditioning, lighting, and everything. So we definitely want him involved because it also helps us with rebates. So now as they start getting into the electrical, mechanical, lighting and stuff, yeah, we have to get more involved in that. So Robert, would you care to comment on the B3? I don't know if it was missed or not, but I do know that it came up a couple of meetings ago. And
yeah, sure. I can talk to it. I can talk to it, Mayor. So basically kind of what went on there, I think you were approved last fall, I think October or something like that. We did bring it up, but at that time we didn't really get a definition of whether it was needed or not. I mean, we had a decent idea that we thought it was needed. It took a little bit for us to get that information, in the end. And I think, Mayor kind of said it after we hammered on it a little bit. Ultimately, it came back eventually. And I don't know, Stephanie, if you had something to do with that, but it came up that, yes, we do need it. And at that time, it was pretty much, okay, well, we're looking at this conceptually starting, a new conceptual plan anyways. So we have to figure out what the conceptual plan is before we really dive into this B3 portion of it anyhow. So, the last month or 2 months almost now, we've been doing that conceptual plan. And then ultimately in that email, we took it to the next level and said, okay, we really have to look at this. And another thing is if you remember, I think schematic design and start of this project was started before you even, went to the bonding capacities. So this process of B3 is they really like to look at it in phases. So from this new plan all the way through, we'll be going to SD, DD, CD and giving them opportunities for review and following that process. And then, Travis, you're spot on. You're going to have those decisions of, should we put solar panels in? Should we do this? And we'll have the payback on, okay, it takes 12 years to pay back, those solar panels at a cost of XYZ. And then ultimately the council gets the decision to move forward or not move forward with that. So in this next phase, when we get to this SD, it's going to iron out a lot of that stuff where, B3 essentially takes all of our energy modeling and all of our energy work and takes that information and reports back on it. We check all the boxes. That's all stuff that they're going to require of us. So that's just a little history on, how we are and where we got to where we kind of were today.
I can touch on it just a little bit too, Mr. Mayor, if you'd like.
Go ahead, Stephanie. I know I seen an email from you today. You were asking about the same thing, and go ahead.
Yeah. Councilor Bakke, what had happened with the B3 is when we received the bonding money a couple months ago, I started meeting with the rep from the state bonding dollars, and that's when we clarified that we were B3. So then that's kind of what got the ball rolling to make sure that the B3 requirements were going to be in that building. Like Robert said, it was a little bit unclear, and the process had kind of started before it was guaranteed if we needed that B3 or not. And now it is, we know for sure that we need the B3. So moving forward, it will be that way.
Thank you, Stephanie.
If I could, Mayor, just quickly, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead, Larry.
Robert, as we kind of back up now, I won't, we have a lengthy discussion going back about the consultant that Mayor there spoke of that we have at our disposal. And they could also almost be a B3 expert per se. And then they also have the advantage and the ability to work with our local utilities, which, you folks from being not from around here aren't really familiar with maybe some of the rebates and things like that and our incentives that are available locally. So, do you need is it direction that we need, or is it just, because I know I seen your email, Robert, that you're going to work with the state and you're going to work with, Scott Sasala and us to kind of back up and get those B3 requirements taken care of. Is this a good time to bring that consultant in that we've spoke of before, that we were kind of past the design where we could incorporate that consultant now?
We can certainly talk about that either way. We have the capabilities to do the B3 in-house as well. And, since we're doing the engineering and we have the capabilities of doing the energy modeling and various other things, so we can manage that from our end as well. We're going to have to review submittals, and there's a lot of requirements in that B3, but we're open to any teaming arrangement, and our sustainability director at Wendell brought up the exact same thing. There's a lot of rebates and various things with Minnesota Power that we can start talking over now that we have a good feel and work with B3 and them to ultimately, try to get the price on any solar panels or any other, energy efficient, sustainable type things taken care of in the design. So Larry, to answer your question, I think that's something that's on the table, and we can certainly start reviewing that and seeing how we want to tackle that, whether it's us doing it or, Scott doing it, or how we want to go apart. But it's definitely something to chat about.
I think it's just to involve them in those conversations because, like I said, they have that knowledge at the local level that we might just not be seeing here. So, I mean, I know it's at a very, very different level, but we just installed lights at the skating rink, and the rebate was more than the lights and the labor cost because of the some of the programs out there. So those are just some of the things you're just not going to know about unless you have that local connection, I don't think. So just my opinion, and I hope we can work with our consultant as we move forward.
Yep, we're on board with however we want to shake this out. We do a lot of it with Excel Energy. They have the same type of programs and rebates and different things like that. So we can definitely work on that.
Council, anything else? Comments on the building? So with that said, let's. I'd like to turn this over to Jim and Larry, kind of as a tag team here. Jim sent out an email. It was a follow-up from a previous email. He sent it out yesterday, late in the day. Maybe it was early in the day. But kind of goes through a number of different items. I asked Jim to come on tonight, just kind of walk us through it. I know Robbie has also looked at this, and I think his terms this morning were, a lot of that's just no brain to do it. It saves you money. But Jim, can you kind of walk us through the different items here, kind of explain to us what you really mean by them? And basically we're looking for, if the council buys into these suggestions from Jim and Larry, that way Robert and Laura leave knowing that that's part of their plans and specs, and make sure that's part of it. So just kind of clarify these cost savings. So Jim?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. On the first half of the sheet, or the first half of the first page, we're looking at pavement sections for the bituminous pavement, the concrete pavement, and the sidewalks and so forth. And basically, I've just gone through and looked at those, and I think there's some cost savings. What was being proposed is much heavier than what we were even installing on our municipal state aid streets. But what I'm suggesting there is that I'll work with Robert and his engineering consultant, which is Northland Consulting down in the Duluth area, to come up with those basically. And with Northland Consulting, they took those numbers right from a geotechnical report that was put together by Braun Intertech when Carl Sanderson was on this job. But MnDOT, Minnesota Department of Transportation, has a design methodology that we utilize. Marty would be familiar with that. And basically what that geotechnical report was, they really didn't know traffic volumes. That design is based on structural stability of the soils below, as well as the traffic and the size and weight of traffic on that. So that one, I'm suggesting that we will work with Bob and his consultants to come up with a good recommended design. But I think what we were using on our 6th Street Southeast, which is right in that same neighborhood, and what we've had up in North Street on 8th Street North are kind of the basis of at least some of those pavement sections. But so I think that's certainly kind of a known or a common sense one that we will work with Bob. Probably more importantly, as you get down just below those pavement sections for the sidewalks and the driveways and pads and so forth, is regarding what's usually referred to as Class 5 aggregate, or the aggregate that's right below the concrete pavement of pavement or sidewalks or bituminous pavement as well. And as you know, we've been recycling our concrete and clay pipes and so forth and crushing it. And we've got a very adequate stockpile out there. And on some of our state aid or some of our infrastructure projects, we have been providing that material for the contractor to load and haul and then place. And I was going to recommend the same thing, and Larry came up with the idea of, to even save more money, is that we would use the city to actually load and haul that material and stockpile it on site, such that it would be directly there for the contractor, and their only responsibility would be for placing that material at the recommended thicknesses and so forth. So that's one that we think has potential significant savings for us, since we already have that material, so that you could put more money into the building. The next item below is going just in the opposite direction. It's going to cost us a little bit more money, but it's I think it's a cost benefit, and that's recommending that there be curb and gutter along all of these, our parking lot areas as well as the driveways. It provides structural stability to the pavement itself. It keeps people or vehicles on the pavement, such that they're not driving in on the adjacent grass or something, creating ruts that holds water, which then softens the underlying soils, and that pavement starts breaking off the edge. I think I'm just strongly recommending that we put in curb and gutter wherever we're putting in our driveways and our parking lots. Let me back up, I guess, Mayor, what I was looking for, and if Larry has anything to add, and then I'll go through additional items. But I guess as I go through each one of these, I'm kind of looking for a thumbs up or a thumbs down in terms of passing these on to Bob and Laura as well. The first one would be in regards to our Class 5 or our Class 7, where the city will actually provide load and haul, where the contractor is only going to be responsible for placing that material that has been stockpiled on site. Whether you concur or disagree, I guess is what we're looking for.
Well, I think it makes sense to me. I don't know how the council feels, but that's to me a pretty easy one.
Agreed.
Okay, I'll assume that's thumbs up. Curb and gutter, I just think that's just such an extremely important and valuable, and is going to save us a lot of money over the lifetime of these pavement, if you will.
Yeah, I think your whole picture here, you're trying to save money. So if there's something that costs us a little more as part of it, I don't have a problem with it. It sure cleans up the edges of a parking lot curb.
It keeps people on the pavement where it belongs. Okay, I'll assume that's thumbs up. The next one is in regards to signing. The plans that Bob and Laura have provided to us are showing the proposed signing and so forth. And we would like to have that plan. What Larry and I are suggesting, since the city crews already do this on a normal basis, is that they would prepare that plan, but they don't have to bid it. The city would actually do the purchasing and the installation of the signs and posts. If they can just give us quantity, we can save money because we're already paying the labor. We don't pay sales tax and those types of things. So that's one. Would you agree? Thumbs up or thumbs down?
Yeah, definitely a thumbs up on that. We got to do it anyway. So.
Yeah. The next one is in regards to the fire hydrants, and again, when you go out through a bidding process, you have to put together a spec, and you can't limit it to a single supplier or a single model. You have to put together kind of a generic spec. And what we would like to do in order to save, stocking costs of parts and so forth, is just as the PUC does each year, they buy about 3 or 4 hydrants and some valves for repairs when we have breaks in the systems and so forth. And what we're suggesting there is that we will furnish the hydrants and the valves. The contractor will just be responsible for installing those items. Again, we save sales tax, but we get compatibility, so we're not carrying a different brand of parts for different types of valves or hydrants. So
I like it.
I will assume we can go yes, thumbs up.
I like it.
Okay, then the next one I list is sheet 5, and that's something that we'll work with Bob and Laura and their consultants. It's dealing with those old bases from the old wastewater treatment plant with our building moving further to the north, there's probably some foundations that may need to be removed to accommodate our building, but there's a number of other foundations that hopefully are beyond our grading area or an area that we need to remove. So our hope would be that as many as possible, we can just leave alone, not touch them, and save money on removing old foundations, if you will. I think that's kind of common sense. They'll probably want to achieve the same thing again so we can put more money into the buildings. Next item on sheet 7 that I refer to is just clearing and grubbing. It's like the signing as well. We know what is going to need to be done. Again, the city crews do this on a regular basis. We can have that stuff done and out of the way, including the bituminous pavement removal. The only one that I would have a question on, and that's, I'm going to go back to Larry on that, is in regards to the demolition and removal of the Public Works building. Whether they've got the capabilities, the time to do those things, that's more Larry's bag than mine. But I would recommend that the clearing and grubbing pavement removals can certainly do as a Public Works staff.
Yeah, and the big stuff, Jim, doing a good job, by the way. Appreciate that. The big stuff like the removal of the building and stuff, as long as it's a bid item, then we can decide at the time, or, relatively at the time, if we would have that capability.
Yeah, I think we were going to break that out as a separate cost on how much it was going to cost to take it down, and then you can make that decision. As long as I'm off mute here, same thing, if you're bringing in stone and good material for us, would you be open to taking away any excess fill or anything and taking it off-site for the general contractor too, or is that one off limits?
No, we talked about that. Well, yeah, and we have 4 different options to haul it, and starting off with just under 3/4 of a mile to 2.5 miles away, to save money on hauling. So
yeah, so we'll stockpile the fill, any excess fill, and then ultimately you'll load it up and take it away.
Correct. Yeah, exactly.
Excellent. That's good.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Sheet 8 site plan dealt with the parking lots, and in working with, they're knowing a little bit about the fire department operations on the north side of the building, or right beside the fire apparatus bays. Again, I would recommend, at one point they had diagonal parking that was in opposite directions, depending if you came in off of 67 across their apron of the fire department, or if you came in the driveway if you were coming from the north. And I think that plan made a lot of sense, and it's providing the parking not only for the fire department personnel, but if we have a fitness center or something, that's really probably the most logical place for that parking, as well as on the west side of the building. So what I'm suggesting is that there be a center aisle with diagonal parking with concrete curb and gutter bituminous pavement on the north side or beside the fire apparatus bays. And that those diagonal parking probably be at a 60-degree angle, because it's very quick to pull in and back out of, as opposed to if fire department personnel are responding, they don't want to be trying to 90-degree park when they're trying to get to the site as soon as possible. So, and then in that same manner, the site plan proposed a what am I trying to say, for the salvage yard, or it's not salvage yard, for down by the police department on the south end, for your impoundment lot is what I'm trying to say. I talked with Vern about this, and again, in order to save money at this point, we think the gate and the fence for security purposes makes a lot of sense, but basically that area for right now could just as well be turf. And if we determine we need to have a need to have it gravelled or paved in the future, it might be gravelled now. That might be a good alternative, so we don't have to be mowing and maintaining that way. But again, using our Class 7, just make that a gravel parking lot on the south side of the building, or at the police department end of that building. Save the money on the pavement and the curb and gutter down there at this point. And then the last item let me back up. I guess kind of thumbs up, thumbs down with those two parking lot recommendations. Does it make sense, Robert? Vern, Laura?
Jim, I'm okay with them. I don't, I think as part of the project, maybe it doesn't hurt to know what the heck the add-on is for that, so that maybe we end up getting enough money to do it. Who knows? Maybe it makes sense.
Well, that's the type of thing too with the bids that Bob and Laura bid package. There'll probably be unit prices on some of that stuff, like curb and gutter and the blacktop. So we could figure out what that additional cost would be if the building costs come in good shape. So that is true. So, but I think for right now, we in talking with Vern, he would be satisfied. He'd rather have more in the building than in that impoundment lot. So I think that could be gravelled if need be to save us again money. And then the last thing deals with utilities. And again, Larry and I will work with Bob and their civil engineering consultant, because when we did the looping of the water main, we dropped off a couple T's to serve the building right along County Road 67. We put in T's with plugs, and that's where they'll tie in to install the valves and then extend the water main to the building at one of those two locations, whichever is most convenient. And then on the west side of the building, we replaced that 36-inch sanitary sewer as part of that same project last summer. And there is a sub out of a sanitary sewer. We're not sure. The consultants didn't get the location or the elevation of it. So that's part of our unknown there. So we'll have to work with Larry to see if we can get that uncovered, find out where it's at, what elevation is, and then work with Bob and Laura and their consultants as to what makes the most sense, most economical sense for tying in. The plans do show some little drainage catch basins up alongside the building on both the east and the west sides between the building and the sidewalks. My experience has been that those become a maintenance nightmare. And our thought is to work more with just grading at like a 2% grade away from the building. We've got a nice ditch to work with along County Road 67 to the west. We've got parking lots that we can drain it across to the west towards the lake. We think we can put in swales to the north and to the south. The one question may come in as to outletting roof drains, but I've seen where they use like 4 or 6 inch PVC as a manifold system to get them outlet to some other location, which are virtually maintenance free. So again, I'm thinking we'll work with Bob and Laura and their consultants as to what makes the most sense, both in terms of maintenance and in terms of cost. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Council, any concerns on any of those, or they all seem pretty straightforward? And
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead, Marty.
First of all, I think Jim and Larry have done a great job here trying to make some improvements based on local knowledge and some local practices. And these are all good ideas to help us save some money and get the project right. I guess now that I've looked with a magnifying glass at the typical pavement sections, I see a non-woven geotextile underneath in class 5. This is my experience. A woven geotextile is better than a non-woven. I'm not sure how much difference in price there is there between the woven and a non-woven. If there's no difference in price, I would recommend a woven geotextile. And I know in some of our pavements, we've been putting in a geogrid as a long-term crack prevention investment and pavement longevity investment. And I think we should look at that as an alternate, at least on the entrance and exit roadways. Maybe not so much the parking lot, but maybe the main traveled roadways where we do have substantial traffic. We should look at using the high-strength geogrid like we've done in our other new street construction. And
yeah, we'll look
do we need a motion for all these?
I don't think so.
I don't think we do. It's basically the, 5 Googles and Wendell's got marching orders to get plans and specs back. We're just kind of, as long as we don't have any issue with Jim and Larry working with them to try to get this plan and spec kind of around this. I like what you brought up there, Marty, too. I certainly wouldn't mind looking at, if you feel that there's some strength, we should, where we might need it more. Certainly, we should at least know what it costs during this project, so we have the option at some point, before it's built. So,
yes, Marty, we'll look at that when we're working with Bob and Laura and their civil engineering consultants. I definitely plan to put in at separation fabric at the bottom of the Class 5, and I'm actually on the technical advisory committee with a MnDOT project where we're trying to get MnDOT to provide a granular equivalency to the biaxial or triaxial reinforcement materials, so we can hopefully save some money on bituminous or gravel in exchange for the added value added by those heavy duty geotextiles. So we will work on that, Marty. Yes.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Council, anything else? Robbie, Laura, anything you need to add here that we left out?
No, all great things. They're very, very logical type items, and thanks, Jim, for bringing them up, and we'll definitely start talking with you a little closer to take them into consideration and get them in the plans, and great ideas.
Bob, I can forward a copy of that memo that I gave to council that we were reviewing tonight. I can send that to you if you would so desire, or do you already have it?
I actually sent you an email 2 seconds ago asking for it, so.
I'll dig it out and forward it to you right back during the council meeting then. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, council, everybody knows as much as I do and as much as Larry and Jim and Robert and Laura do now. So let's get this thing ready to bid. So let's move on. We'll move on to Robert, Laura. Have a good night. If you're leaving us, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll talk soon.
Have a good night, folks.
All right, Stephanie, let's move on to your items. Resolution number 0321-34. Chisholm Chamber of Commerce to act as fiscal agent for Minnesota Department of Iron Range Resources Rehabilitation Cultural and Tourism Grant.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This kind of piggybacks on to some of the things we were talking about with the campground earlier in the meeting. This grant will be, it's a culture and tourism grant through IRRR. It's going to be focusing on amenities for the Chisholm Iron Trail Campground, including new signage, e-bike and e-vehicle charging stations, mountain bike wash stations, picnic tables, bike pumps, landscapings, and some other amenities for the campground. The Chisholm Area Chamber of Commerce will be our fiscal agent on this grant application. The city is not eligible.
Council looking for a motion to adopt that resolution for Stephanie.
Motion.
Second.
Thank you, Travis. Thank you, April. Further discussion? Margaret?
Counselor Halverson.
Aye.
Counselor Michelaraha.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Vaki.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. The motion carries. Resolution number 0321-35, City of Chisholm to act as fiscal agent for Minnesota Discovery Center for LCCMR grant to expand Redhead Mountain Bike Park and letter of support.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just like you said, the MDC is looking at writing a grant to LCCMR. This has come to council once already. This is going to be the resolution and the letter of support. The grant would be used for Redhead Mountain Bike Park, the expansion of that, and adding pump track and a couple other amenities at the trailhead.
Council looking for a motion to adopt resolution 0321-35.
Motion.
Support.
Thank you. Second by, was that Adam
Marty.
or Marty? Marty, thank you. Council, further discussion? Margaret?
Counselor Helverson,
Aye.
Counselor Mikola Raha,
Aye.
Counselor Fountain,
Aye.
Counselor Lance,
Aye.
Counselor Vaki,
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. The motion carries. Resolution 0321-36, apply and accept CCF grant funds for Visit Chisholm signage, Redhead Trailhead, and light pole flags for downtown. Stephanie?
This is another grant application with, this one is for the Chisholm Community Foundation. We are seeking funds to build a Visit Chisholm sign at the Redhead Trail, which would endorse visiting the downtown businesses of Chisholm. Also doing some signage, flags on the light poles downtown. We're partnering with the chamber on this grant application.
Council motion to adopt resolution 0321-36.
I'll make that motion. Counselor Fountain.
Thank you, April. Second for that.
Support.
Councilor Mikola Raha, I think, was a second. Further discussion? Margaret?
Counselor Helverson,
Aye.
Counselor Mikola Raha,
Aye.
Counselor Fountain,
Aye.
Counselor Lance,
Aye.
Counselor Vaki,
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Motion carries. Delta Airlines agreement. Do we have this?
No, Attorney Lindsay is going to give an update on that.
Okay. I was going to say, okay, I missed this one.
Thank you,
Not
Mayor.
ready for this one. Good evening, Brian.
And we're very close to a document. I had prepared an original draft. We had passed it back over to Delta, and they had their attorney take a look at it. Ms. Reed, who took a very thorough look through it. She and I had a conversation this past Friday, a very productive conversation. We've identified just a couple of minor modifications that Delta would like to make based on our conversation. So the document is with them. I expect we should be getting those changes back anytime, and I would fully expect that we would have the document back for the council's consideration at the next meeting.
All right. Thank you, Brian. So we'll move on for now. Council, unless you have any questions on that. Thank you, Stephanie. Good work there on all of the grants you're working on for us. Good job.
Thank you.
Larry, COVID plan for Senior Citizen Center.
Hi, everyone. I am very excited about this plan. Very dedicated and passionate group at the Senior Center, most of you know. I guess I'll start by just saying that they're serious about getting the Senior Center open, as am I, after meeting with them and speaking with them. And if there's any concerns, I feel like we've litigated them and talked about them, and they're an amazing group that want to work with Casey Drug on vaccinations and all that and such. I guess I would open it up to questions if there was any concerns. I feel that all the COVID plans that I've had to write for essential employees and such, this pretty much sums it all up, especially as we get closer to, opening up the vaccinations for all age groups now and such like that. I'm very, very comfortable. I know in the past, Councillor Fountain has had some concerns about city buildings and stuff, and I think we've really, really laid out a plan nicely here. And, with the dedication of this group, I have zero concern on follow through as well. So.
Larry, has Brian reviewed this plan?
Yeah, I've talked with Attorney Lindsay about it a couple of times. I don't know if he's reviewed the final draft here, but I've talked to Attorney Lindsay with it.
So we have who Margaret that kind of administers the list. I mean, we got Casey Drug using it. We occasionally use the building ourselves. They're well aware, the seniors are well aware that we have other commitments there as well. So I know you guys are all working together on this. So it's going to definitely limit their time there, at least in the early going here anyway. So it's gonna, yeah, I don't have any concerns. I read through it, and I know that they're very serious about trying to at least get back to life too. So, council, we're looking for a motion to approve the COVID plan to allow them to start moving towards allowing seniors in there on a limited basis. And
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor, to approve the COVID plan and allow them to use the senior center.
okay, thank you.
Support.
Thank you, Travis. Further discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilor Rob.
I want to double check with Attorney Lindsay that this is, we're good.
Yep. Mayor, if I may, this plan in conjunction with the city's master plan provides sufficient safeguards to meet the state's requirements.
Well, that sounded awful lawyery, didn't it? Loved it.
I have a question for Attorney Lindsay or Mr. Falstead.
Go
How
ahead.
many people can go into, following these guidelines, how many people can go into the building at one time?
For social gathering 15, it's in your packet, Counselor. Next, that's the latest, unless Attorney Lindsay has an updated one from March 15th. Social gatherings indoors 15, Counselor Fountain.
Thank you.
Brian, is that still current?
It is, Mayor. There's actually a couple of different things that restrict your capacity. One is your ability to maintain and achieve social distancing. One at this point is from the current executive order, Section 6C, I think, is 15 people, but that number changes to 50 people, I believe, as of noon on March 30th or March 31st. So there is a change upcoming that is currently embodied in the effective executive order.
But it sounded like what you said, if the recommendation is 6 foot spacing still, we probably couldn't get 50 people in that building anyway.
Correct. Yep. And so the other factor that limits you, there's a percentage of capacity, there's the 6 foot social distancing, and then there's also the restrictions on group size or social gathering definitions.
Okay. Councilor, anything
Mayor,
else?
One last comment and a bit of humor, if I may. The real passionate group, like we all know, and they says one of the final things he says is, just assure the city council that we make good decisions. We didn't get to this point by making bad decisions, and I think Dave is in early 90s or such. So we had a real good laugh over that, and they really wanted me to assure the council that they're prepared to do everything they can and be safe and really just get back to a little bit of normalcy as they can. So,
Larry, thank you for all the work on that. Council, if there's nothing else, I'll ask Margaret to take a vote, please.
Councillor Halverson.
Aye.
Councillor Michelaraha.
Aye.
Councillor Fountain.
Aye.
Councillor Lance.
Aye.
Councillor Vaki.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Motion passes. Second item, Larry's looking to approve the job description for their semi-rec casual laborers. Larry, anything you want to add there? There was no that came out later in the day, but.
correct. I appreciate it again, Margaret, as always. Margaret has a keen eye for these things. And just a couple of spelling things and grammar that Margaret caught. And then I added, and just so you know, really what prompted it was I added campground, which wasn't on there before. And I added cemetery, which seemed to be let off in the past. So that's really no big change, council. Just wanted to share that and get an updated casual labor job description.
Council, a motion to approve the job description for Larry.
That motion, Mr. Mayor, Councilor Fountain.
Okay, second for that.
Support.
Seconded by Cheyenne. Further discussion? Margaret?
Councillor Halverson.
Aye.
Councillor Michelaraha.
Aye.
Councillor Fountain.
Aye.
Councillor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Vaki,
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Motion passes. Hire up to 15 summer casual laborers for public works, Larry?
Council, again, I had a conversation with Attorney Lindsay and then a couple with, Counselor Fountain over I haven't reviewed truly because it hasn't involved me at, the new the new, hiring policy, which the council approved there in January for the casual laborers. And Counselor Fountain and I think Attorney Lindsay agreed that this doesn't take a formal group by council, that you can delegate me as the supervisor of the departments to just conduct the hiring of the casual laborers with, who I see fit. If it's a senior employee, maybe Administrator Za wants to sit, it's that like that. So it doesn't take a council group, and then come back to council for final approval. It's basically budgeted for, and they're just not full-time employees. And it skips it right along, I think, like Tammy has said in the past as well. So.
Well, Larry, I'm in agreement with that. So yeah, I agree that we should direct you to hire the 15 casual laborers. So that's what you'd be looking for, the motion to do that.
I believe so, if Attorney Lindsay agrees.
Brian, any comment?
Nope. I tend to agree with Mr. Folstad's assessment. We kept that provision of policy specifically so that it would make the process of these casual laborers a little bit more streamlined and a little more reactive.
Larry,
Okay.
I'd like to make that motion.
Thank you.
Thank you, April. Second for that?
Support.
Thank you, Cheyenne. Further discussion?
Mayor, I have a question, please.
Go ahead, Eileen.
I just wanted to know if the hiring of the full-time, for those full-time positions, if it's going to affect the hiring for Tammy's rec positions, because hers are part-time. I was just curious. Because the kids may want to do something, more full-time versus part-time.
No, I think Tammy's are part-time. I think
My job's way more fun.
Yeah. Tammy's a much funner boss than I am. Absolutely. No, I think they're both, it's just a different verbiage, if I'm not mistaken. Tammy uses part-time, I use casual labor.
Yeah, so I was just curious if, because you're offering full-time, Larry, if the pool of candidates are going to be drawn to your positions and away from Tammy's. That's my question.
Larry's are part-time as well.
Yeah, they're all part-time, up to 64 shifts by ASME contract. Yeah, it's just they're both in the same, Eileen.
Mine runs 4 days a week for 7 weeks. And mine's geared to probably more of the 16 to 18-year-olds, although we get people older. And we've always hired these two types of positions simultaneously.
Great, thank you.
Oh, I misunderstood if you meant, Eileen, that I provide more hours. Is that what you kind of meant? Or okay,
It was my mistake. I thought you did have full-time employees. Sorry, thank you.
Hey, Larry, I just got a question. I don't want to talk all night, but driving around town, town looks so nice if when you drive by the corners, every fire hydrant is a really nice red instead of a dull faded red. Just thought I'd put that bug in your.
I'm gonna get to that right after your bricks on Main Street, Mayor. We'll work on it. We will.
All right. So we got a motion and support, I believe, to allow you to hire up to 15 casual laborers. There's no further discussion. Margaret?
Counselor Halverson.
Aye.
Counselor Michelaraha.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Vaki.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Motion carries. Appoint committee to finalize job description for part-time janitor. Budgeted position. Larry, you want to take that?
And if I could, I'll try to be as brief. I know there's been quite a bit of conversation about the janitor. We're planning on bringing that to council. I appreciate it. It was budgeted for a part-time up to 48 hours every 2 weeks. there's been conversation about if we need a full-time janitor. And I would just like help to really bring a recommendation back to council from some of the folks that are interested. And I drafted a thank you to Eileen. I know how busy she is, and she was still able to get me a couple job description samples, which I was able to edit and use, which made my life a lot easier. I'm not a creative writer by trade, so that helped very much. And truly just a couple people that we can bring back to council with a recommendation, I guess, because of the conversation said, or we just move forward with budgeted as a part-time janitor and go from there. However the council feels. I just know there's been some conversation about it, so I wanted to bring it back to council and offer this suggestion.
Larry, just my opinion, the best way to figure out what that job description is, obviously, is to be talking to all the different departments to figure out what you need, as well as looking at what you need as well. I don't think there would be any harm in at least having one council person involved with those discussions so that you have somebody to present it for you when it comes back. Yeah, I know there's some discussion. I know there's some council people that like to make it a full-time position. I would only be against that this year because we budgeted a part-time. But if we get this position hired and that plays out, that should be a full-time position when we get to our budgets at the end of the year, I certainly would be open to that talk. But somebody want to serve, be part of Larry's group to try to come up with a job description to bring back to the council? Is that what you're looking for, Larry?
Yeah, and probably at least 2 department heads. Yes, please.
I'll help you, Larry.
Appreciate that.
I'll help you, Larry.
Here's one from City Hall. How about from police or fire? Vern?
I can always lend a hand where it's available. I think Katie would like a chance to help out on this as well. She's a younger department head and has a lot of good young ideas, maybe replace an old fogey like me. But I hate to volunteer, but I'm sure she would jump on it. But so I hate to take that away from her. So one of the 2 of us, I'm sure, will take care of that, though, if that's all right.
Is Katie still on with us?
No, she went off, I believe.
Well, look at that.
I'll nominate her.
That worked out all right, didn't it?
So, council, let's make a motion to have Councillor Vaki, Larry, Vern, Katie, Tammy, bring us back a job description.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor. And I want to.
And obviously, they can talk to anybody they need to try to finalize that. So, thank you, April. Is there a second for that?
Support.
Support by Cheyenne. Thank you. Further discussion? Margaret?
Counselor Helverson.
Aye.
Counselor Mikalaroha.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Baki.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. The motion carries. Larry, thank you.
Thanks,
All
everyone.
right, we'll move on to Vern. Gambling permit for Chisholm Chamber. This is their raffle they do every year. Motion to approve the gambling permit, unless Vern has something he needs to add to that.
No, sir.
Council?
Motion. I'll make the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Thank you, Travis. Second for that.
Board.
Thank you, Adam. Further discussion? Margaret?
Counselor Helverson.
Aye.
Counselor Mikalaroha.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Vaki.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. That motion carries. Next item, gambling permit for Lions Clubs, lawful gambling at gyms.
And I think, Mr. Mayor, this is just changing who does their pull tabs to the Lions Club, something that's been ongoing at gyms.
Okay. Council, we would need a motion to approve lawful gambling for the Lions Club. Would that be the correct terminology, Margaret?
I would suggest saying premises permit.
For lawful gambling?
Mm-hmm. To conduct
Okay.
lawful gambling.
To conduct lawful gambling. Council, can we get that motion?
Motion, I'll make it.
Second.
Motion by Travis, second by April. Further discussion? Margaret?
Counselor Halverson. Aye.
Counselor Mikala Raha.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Vaki.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Motion carries. Last item under Vern. Vern forwarded a memo to the council, so eloquently written. Basically what he's saying, you did this for, asked me to try to ramp them up quicker so Larry could draw people. And he's having the same problems, and ramping up the wages quicker would be helpful. And I would have to agree. Truth of the matter is, once they get through the probation, it's pretty much a moot point anyway. So, Vern, you got anything to add to that?
No, just the current times is trying anything we can do to get people employed. And we are shorthanded 3 and like to get people on so we don't have as much burnout here. So appreciate the consideration.
So it would memo of understanding to the LEL is what this would be in agreement to that, right?
Correct.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor, for
April.
memorandum of understanding.
Support.
Thank you, Cheyenne. Further discussion?
No brainer. Good job, Vern.
Thank you.
Margaret?
Counselor Halverson.
Aye.
Counselor Mikala Raha.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Vaki.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Okay, that motion carries. Thank you, Vern.
Thank you.
All right, move on to Tammy. Resolution 0321-37, apply and accept grant funds from CCF for backstop at Fergal softball field. Tammy?
Yes, Travis and I have been working a bit together on this grant. I'm requesting, last year when we were doing the budget, this was taken out of the budget. And we probably should have left half of that in that I had been originally requested for this matching grants. However, I'm able to take $1,000 out of my baseball budget, and I'm requesting the council to do the other $2,400 as the matching funds for this grant. It is a safety issue. It blinds the players, and we're only trying to make that league a better league, right, Trav? And encouraging tournaments and different things, and safety should always be a priority of our city.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Tammy. I'm actually the one that asked Tammy and Stephanie to do this. So thank you for doing that. It really is a safety concern. The bats nowadays, the ball comes off the bat so fast. I've already bought the screen that I'm going to be donating to Tammy. And so all we need is the fence portion of this. And it's going to do a lot. And I can also tell you that everyone in that plays softball is on board with this. So if I have to get some funds from the league or whatever to help, we certainly are willing to do that.
We'll find a 2450 somewhere. Council, looking for a motion to adopt resolution 0321-37.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second for that?
Support, Marty.
Supported by Marty. Thank you, Marty. Thank you, Travis. Further discussion? Just once again, thank the Community Foundation for their share of this again. It's just, it's great to have that partnership. Margaret?
Counselor Halverson.
Aye.
Counselor Mikala Raha.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Vaki.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Motion carries. COVID plan for Curling Club for youth baseball, softball registration that I asked Tammy to bring back.
Yep, and they are just requesting 3 days in April. They haven't told me which days yet, and they would follow this COVID plan. Attorney Lindsay did take a look at it and sent me some suggestions, and so I'm just looking for approval.
Also,
I'll make
motion.
the plan.
Okay, motion by Adam, seconded, was it Cheyenne?
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
All right.
I like how it's worded in there too, how many people are permitted. Thank you.
Nice. Further discussion on that? Okay, Margaret?
Counselor Halverson.
Aye.
Counselor Mikola Raha.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Vaki.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. The motion passes. Is somebody listening to the council meeting on time delay or what? I swear I hear everything we say about like a few seconds after we're done saying it, unless it's an echo. Must be me. Some voices again. All right, we'll move on to Brian's item with Mr. Novakovich and the agreement that he brought forward earlier today. Brian?
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the council, I do apologize for bringing this on such short notice. We've kind of got a situation that's fluid involving one of our utility improvement projects in town. We've been working with Mr. Novakovich for some time trying to get access and a permanent easement put in place over his property. We were close. We were very close. But now we've run into some issues that have come up. The purpose of this agreement, which was put together, which I put together and was my suggestion to try and get in place, will allow the contractors to get on to do some exploratory work to develop some more facts that we may need to ultimately settle the issue by negotiation with Mr. Novakovich, but most importantly, allows our project to keep moving forward and will prevent or at least greatly minimize any delay that we experience with our contractors. You'll notice as you look through it, it's limited in time and scope. So essentially what it's intended to do is to give us a window of time where we can continue to work with Mr. Novakovich, but also bring contractors on, bore some holes to test the bedrock that exists there to see if and where it exists, and also to grub out some trees and make the area ready for the completion or the progress of the project. And so if there are any questions relative to the agreement, I'd be happy to field them and answer as best I can.
Council, anything for Brian at this point? If not, I would be looking for a motion to approve that agreement. I'm trying to find it, so I don't have it. It's here somewhere. But
I'll make the motion, Mr. Mayor.
okay, thank you, Travis. Thank you, Adam. Further discussion? Yeah, that was one of my concerns was, getting through that property. So I'm glad you're pushing forward on this, Brian. Margaret?
Counselor Halverson.
Aye.
Counselor Mikola Raha.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Vaki.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Okay, that motion passes. Thank you, Brian. Moving on, Eileen, dormant bank accounts.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. And I'm so excited to be presenting today. Yay. We have received correspondence from First National Bank and Security State Bank that several of our savings accounts have gone into dormant status. This is due to over 2 years of no transactions transpiring. This makes sense because they're savings accounts. The only transactions that are happening are the accrual or the earning of interest. So in order to remedy that, First National Bank requires a signer to visit the bank and to either conduct a transaction or we send in a notarized letter. So in regard to conducting a transaction, I did reach out to our auditors because these savings accounts are just out there and the city does have several accounts that we oversee. So I posed the question to the auditor, can we close some of these and transfer them into the primary bank account? There are 4 accounts at First National that are in dormant status. 3 out of the 4, our auditors were fine with us closing them. So I think we can conduct the transaction and close these accounts. as as in order to get them out of dormant status. And so I need your guidance, your directive on that, Council.
Eileen,
a motion?
And I appreciate you coaching me, Mayor and council members, how I do this. So it's new to me.
So somebody made a motion, I believe, to allow you, which.
Close 3 out of the 4 accounts?
Yes.
Yep.
Is there a second for that? And then we'll talk. I got some. Support by Cheyenne. Thank you, Cheyenne. Eileen, I don't know if you're, I should have asked you this before. I don't know if you're prepared to answer it, but I mean, what are the 3 accounts? What were they tagged as, or what were their purpose? Do you know that?
I do.
You know how people feel about that an account was set aside to protect that money for a specific purpose, and now would be dumping it into the general fund or whatever. And there might be some thoughts on that. Are you able to?
Sure. I can give the description of the account. I may not be able to provide the basis or the history of it, but I think you can formulate a perspective based on the description. So the first account is the insurance escrow account, and that's how payments are made for any claims that arise. And this is the account that we're just going to leave alone. We'll take it out of dormant status. It needs to be maintained. And the 3 accounts that we can close, the first is public utilities. The next is state aid streets. And the last is just called hold statements. So I really don't have history on those. I know our auditor does, and I'm happy to reach out if you'd like me to get that before we actually move forward. But she felt we could do it no problem, so I certainly trust her advice.
Okay. Yeah, I certainly do too. They must be comfortable that they can track that money in without it being in a separate account. So, Council, anything else to add?
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Marty, I believe.
Public utilities being a enterprise fund that has to live on its own, I think wouldn't they have to approve this, and aren't they the ones to manage this account? And then a question also for Jim, the state aid account, is that a requirement of having state aid? And there must have been a reason for these accounts being established, and somebody should tell us before we obliterate them. Or why don't we go and put $5 in each one and keep them open?
Marty, regarding the public utilities account, it's currently tracked or recorded under the general fund account. So it's separate from an enterprise funds, public utilities. So just so you know.
Hey, Jim, talk to Marty's point, if you could, if you're still on.
It's not a requirement that comes from MnDOT, Marty, as I understand it. My understanding is when Mark Casey was administrator and Gary Krumpetich was the finance director, they were financing our infrastructure improvement projects out of the general fund. And then the reimbursement that we were getting back from state aid, they were putting into this account. But that's really the only information I had. They were building up a fund, but I don't know the purpose or if there's a different purpose in that. But that was my understanding, is that's where they were putting the reimbursement money from state aid. But why they have the separate fund, I do not know.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Evidently, we're not using that same mechanism anymore for state aid money. At least we haven't for at least a couple years, according to the bank. So, yeah. So that money would then transfer into our state aid accounts, our internal state aid budgeting and accounting, or just into the general fund?
Just the general fund, Marty.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Cheyenne, go ahead.
Eileen, did you say that you spoke to Bonnie from Sterling Company about closing these accounts?
That's correct.
Okay, and she was comfortable with that?
Yes, she was.
Okay.
Yeah, and just part of that state aid, I mean, Jim, you get like a running total on where we're at on the whole state aid thing anyway, don't you? I mean, how far we are into this based on what we're getting and everything anyway, right? You must not have heard me. Are you still on, Jim?
I'm sorry, I'm mute. I'm not used to being muted. Yes, I do the request for reimbursement from state aid. Then it goes to Eileen or, Bill Manny before that. And I don't know their accounting process in terms of paying the bills to the contractors while the project's in progress, and then how they handle it when we get reimbursed for the state aid portion of those contracts. That's more the accounting finance end of it. But yes, I have access to, our status and where we're at in terms of our account and so forth. And I do the applications for the reimbursements of those projects.
Okay.
Yes, Mayor, we do receive those funds in the general fund when we those reimbursements from the state.
Yeah. I think what I was alluding to, I know at any given time, Jim can figure out from the state how much we could draw or whatever. So, I mean, he knows all that at any given time, if we're borrowing into the future or if we're doing okay. So the fact that they're separate, I guess, doesn't really matter because we have to use them for a specific thing anyway. So, all right. Well, we do have motion to support to close the 3 accounts, and then the other accounts, I guess the ones with Security State and the other one at First National will have to either stop in as a signature or sign the letter or whatever to keep them open. Right, Eileen?
That's correct, Mayor. For Security State Bank, all we require is a letter, and you and I can sign that, and it's a done deal. We'll get it out of dormant status.
Okay. Council, if there's nothing else, we'll take a vote.
Final question.
Yeah, go ahead, Marty.
How much money's in these accounts?
I'm sorry, Marty. I didn't hear that.
How much money's in the accounts? He was wondering.
I apologize. I don't have that information right in front of me. If you'll give me just a second, I'll get it for you. So in the, bear with me, I'm almost there. I apologize. So for the account that we are keeping open, the balance in the insurance escrow account currently is $56,254. In the public utilities account, the balance, okay, 6868. I don't have access online to that. So State H Street bank account, the balance right now is $1,628,550.43. So it's quite large. The balance in the hold statements account right now, I don't have access to that online right now. I do have a statement here if you'd like me to look at the most recent, which is February. Insurance, I'll give you that balance. Actually, it'll take me a few minutes to look through the statements Do you want me to get that information to you before we move forward on this? I apologize for not being prepared for that question, Marty.
Council, how do you feel about that? We do have a motion and support at this point. I hate to do things that aren't an emergency with some questions, but Council, how do you feel?
I'm fine with voting.
All right. I guess the fact that the auditor said it was okay, that's what I'm leaning on too. All right. Any further discussion? Margaret?
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Marty.
So the motion is to
close the 3 accounts that are
close the 3 accounts and transfer them into the general fund.
Correct. Further discussion? Margaret?
Counselor Halverson.
Aye.
Counselor Michelaraha.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Vaki.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Okay, that motion carries. Next item, authorization to remove our retired administrator, Bill Manny, from the accounts.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor, council members. Because Mr. Manny has retired, we need to remove Bill as an authorized signer on several of the city's bank and or credit card accounts. At the time that I created this memo, I was still trying to learn if Bill was a signer on the Security State Bank accounts. He is not. So this can be removed from consideration. There's no changes required for Bill on that. He is on all of the bank accounts at First National Bank. So what happens is that the First National Bank will draw new account agreements with the designated signatories. So that would be Mayor Champa, Vern Manor, and myself. We'll then have to go through this process again once the city administrator is hired.
All right, council, motion to remove Bill from the accounts at First National Bank, and the new signators will be myself, interim administrator, deputy clerk Eileen Zah, and Chief Vern Manor.
Motion, Mr. Mayor.
Second for that.
Support.
Supported by Travis. Thank you. Well, you should see the process. This is, I got to show up at the bank and they got about 25 sheets I got to sign. And I think we each have to do it if it's the same process. So there's no further discussion. Margaret?
Counselor Halverson.
Aye.
Counselor Michelaraha.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Was that a yes, Counselor Lance?
Yes.
Thank
Aye.
you. Counselor Vaki.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Motion carries. Next item, last one under Eileen is it's informational, but I spoke a little bit of it earlier, and she's actually reached out to people like our auditors and stuff and to ask questions about that any remaining stuff that's on a lower level. So I'll just let her share with us how she feels about all that.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. So the items that I detailed on my memo were taken from a verbal discussion with the auditor. I did follow up with Bonnie via email just to document and make sure I have what I took away is correct. She did acknowledge all of the items. The exception or the changes that she suggested is that the city doesn't have authority to donate items. So we got to be really careful with that. And I would recommend that we don't even consider that as part of how we address the inventory downstairs. Also, we need she recommended that the council officially acknowledge all the items once we have them itemized, photographed, an inventory is taken on all of those items. by taking photos, probably creating a spreadsheet, just managing it well. Keeping a list of all the items that the city wants to use for their own use. I know there's some desks, some other equipment that the city could potentially use. One, I don't recall who had suggested maybe some of the equipment downstairs we could use in the new building. I'm sorry, I don't remember who suggested it, but kudos to them. I think that's a really good suggestion. Also, the declaration of surplus items needs to be approved by council and documented in the minutes at some point once we get to that juncture. And then, of course, accounting 101, we record revenue when we sell the items, and then Larry's doing a good job, I'm sure, of keeping track of all the expenses of disposing the trash down there. So we'll keep good records of this whole endeavor. So I just wanted to let council know the status.
Thank you, Eileen. Council, any feedback on that?
One quick question, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Travis.
Eileen, first off, thank you for doing that, and Larry too. So I've already had people reach out to me about buying stuff from down there. Do I just tell them to call you, Eileen?
I think, Councillor Vatke, if we could start with I think we'll formulate a plan once we get cleaned up. We haven't made any decision past that. And I think my thought is we've had really, really good luck with new bid and that in the past. Maybe we go that direction, but I think we'll visit that as a group soon. Hopefully next week or the week after. That's the thought.
Yeah,
if they have questions, who would I refer them to, I guess is my question.
Of course, I'm willing to take calls, and I'll coordinate those with Larry and make sure we're on the same page so the message is the same to everyone. Larry, your thoughts?
Yeah, I know, I agree.
Thank you.
But yeah, we're a couple weeks away from deciding what, I think once, like Larry said, once we clean it up, we'll have to decide if some of that has some value to us, and then we'll, at that point, figure out what we're getting rid of and how. So.
Mayor, if I may, I just want to say thank you to the council and to yourself. I kind of stumbled through some of this, but I really appreciate your support and patience with me, and I'll get it right next time. Working hard on it. Thank you.
No problem. None of us are perfect. We all know that. All right, we'll move on to Adam. Proposal from Baker Tilly for independent feasibility study for ambulance service. Adam, thank you for bringing that forward, first of all.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. We had a working session in the beginning of March. Everyone knows my feelings that, first off, I want to say that I feel like I have a leg up from everybody else because 4 years I've been working in the emergency field with the fire department. I work a lot with different agencies, ambulance services. So, sometimes I forget that not everybody else is as well versed as I am. I've been having these conversations for many years. So also with that, I also forgot earlier that with many years in the fire service, Chief Masusi, 17 years this last month with anniversary, and Paul Brown. So congratulations to you guys. I'm sorry I left you out earlier. But I think with this independent firm to do an independent study, it can really show everybody what kind of value we have in town, how other cities utilize that value. I'm not going to go into detail and read the entire page out to everybody in the public, but if anybody wants to reach out, I'll be happy to share my estimations with them. But I really believe that this is something that is a huge value that the city is missing out on. I think Longyear Ambulance has done a great job for many years. Not saying anything about them, and this move does not take away anything they've given to the city, but I just think that we can build it and grow it. I think that we can instantly take it over and create a full-time union position and, really increase the wage of our EMTs in town and draw more EMTs to our town. So I think it's a very important aspect that we consider. So I would hope that we could support this and have a firm come in here and do the study. Unfortunately, in my view, they're going to do exactly what I did. They're going to reach out to all the other communities. They're going to have these conversations, but they're going to do it a little cleaner and give you the information so we can make a clear and educated decision when we do either extend this contract or take the service over ourselves.
Thank you, Adam. This happens many times on a council in my year serving, and it's unfortunate because I think I've told you already that I'm not real hip on owning an ambulance service. However, I didn't think we'd own a campground either. But when you start looking at it, you start reviewing it, you can be convinced otherwise. So I certainly wouldn't be against looking at this. The only negative I could find is, once again, I hate spending money that I didn't budget for. And that's why I say it's too bad we didn't know about this at the end of December, or late last year. That's about it. But great opportunity to look at it if we're gonna, because our other option, we're probably gonna agree. And I'm completely happy with Longyear, but this is our window to do it if we're gonna have this discussion, or we're probably the end result is going to be some long-term agreement with Longyear again, I'm assuming. So I don't. How's the rest of the council feel? Any support for what Adam brought forward?
Mr. Mayor, quick question for Adam. So I was looking at the scope of work for this, and I know based off of the working session meeting we had, do you feel like they're going to be able to get 3 years of revenue and expenditures? Because he didn't seem too keen on sharing that information previously.
No, my guess would be absolutely not. Mr. Surdich had said that he's a private businessman, and he's not going to show us how much money the service creates in a year. But we have the information. We know how many runs they do. We know how much they charge per base run. We know how much they charge for an extra EMT and per mile. They will be able to put that together, kind of like I did. It's about $1,200 a run. I think, without payroll, they're looking at over $500,000 a year in revenue. It's right there in black and white. My numbers are estimates, but they're factual numbers based off of what they provide us. Again, I was doing some quick numbers while we were talking, and if you just take the base fee that they charge for a run and $25 a mile, and you don't even calculate an extra attendant, which is $170 per attendant, you come out with a $453,909. That's not what you charge for putting hands on a patient. That's not what you charge for putting bandages on a patient or any extra. That is the base recapture. And that's 45 cents on the dollar of the base recapture. The actual bill amount would be $856,040. So with the 45 cents on the dollar, brings you down to $385,218. But then you add in the $68,691 we paid them last year. That's what brings us up to $453,909. These are factual numbers. We can talk to the other communities. I gave you all the EMS director contacts for 5 different communities around us. Unfortunately, I've talked to all 5 of them again, and nobody has reached out to them. Even if we do this financial study, you have to do some part as a city councilor to educate yourself in this field. This is a very important decision, and all the information is right there for you. It is going to take a little bit of work, but this is something that we have to do. No matter if we hire somebody to do it for us or not, we have to reach out and talk to these individuals. We have to know what Hibbing does in Virginia and Eveleth and Nashwauk and Tower and Cook, and why they are all successful running their own ambulance service. There's a lot of money here. We want solar panels on our fire hall. We want to expand our campground. We want infrastructure. We want to redevelop our downtown and rehabilitate housing and make new housing and update our arena and the infrastructure. it's just, we have no shortage of the need for cash in the city. So we need to be looking at what brings cash in the city. And again, I said before, and I'll continue to say it, and I'll say it for 17 council meetings. Public safety does not belong in the private sector, and there shouldn't be profit in public safety. But unfortunately, with the ambulance service, there is profit, and the profit comes from the customers. The customers are the citizens of Chisholm, so that profit should stay in the community to benefit them. It should not go to a private business owner. It should stay in the city. Is my feeling, and we should be checking out those avenues. And if it's not, I mean, if we for the next under the Mayor Champa, we're going to look at a committee to talk with Longyear. We should be leasing that public surface, the public surface area. Not paying somebody to cover it. There's a lot of money in this, so it should benefit the community. But no, sorry, Travis, I got a little tangent there. The private business will not give us its financials. He will not share that information with us.
Well, I was just going to say, you don't have to convince me, but that was a heck of a speech. I will give you that. So yes, I would support this, or make a, once we get to the point of making a motion.
Like I said,
that almost sounded like the Animal House speech, where the Germans wrong when they bombed Pearl Harbor.
Who's with me?
Add one thing before you finish, Adam. I think somebody like Baker Tilly brings some things in that you didn't mention. Billing and collecting are two different things. And there's probably national averages on how that all works. And you bring in the things like when the percentage of our people that are on Social Security, people that are on percentage on private insurance, people on Obamacare, whatever you want to call it, what the payback is on those things, that it is really hard for you just looking at numbers to determine. And I think they can actually look at that kind of stuff in a more national averages type of look to see how that really looks. So I think their numbers could be more refined. Or they wouldn't try to take on the job. So
I would share what the mayor said too, with Baker Tilly working with them recently. This is what they do for a living. They're professional. They'll find those answers. They'll call around. It's public. A lot of it's public information, so they'll find them answers. And Councilor Lance, one thing that you may have touched on, but maybe left off on was, how many units is Aspen Grove adding to this assisted living? How many? I think Heritage Manor, aren't they adding 40 or 50 units? Jim Johnson would know exactly how many units, but it's a millions of dollar expansion. So the business isn't going away, that's for certain.
So Adam, are you making a motion then to move forward with this Baker Tilly proposal?
First, I was hoping maybe some of the other council would, if they support it, they would make that motion. I don't want to be the one driving this, but I want this to be a collaborative endeavor.
April, Marty, Cheyenne, any input?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Marty.
As part of this analysis, assuming this does pass and move forward, they'll need to study the existing contract with Longyear, especially with regard to the existing building. There's language in there about, if the contract's canceled and who gets the building and who decides how much it's worth. And I don't know the details. I know it's in there, but that's also a big factor, is costs for that building, who bears those costs, who pays for what, and how if this were to go, how does that old building play into this? So we just have to make sure Baker Tilly also includes that analysis of that existing building into their scope of work, and not just simply look at revenue expenditures from the business enterprise of ambulancing, but the other aspects too, the commercial building aspects of it and the costs. Thank you.
Yeah, I can definitely ask them to include that and figure out what the building would be worth, as far as purchasing. I've been talking with Attorney Lindsay, and I believe that there's only a cost in that building is if the contract is canceled. If the contract runs its term of life and is done, Mr. Sturgis is free to do whatever he wants with that building. He owns it. He owns the land.
Okay, the point being then we have to find a home for the ambulance service if he keeps the building. So that has to all get factored into this analysis. You know, do we purchase the building? Do we put it in a new fire hall? Do we then have to build an addition onto the fire hall or the new public safety building? And how does that all work? That all has to be accounted for in this analysis.
Okay, yeah, I will definitely share that information with them. I know, it's different for now. It's not a conversation right now. But I think our current fire hall, we could pull our engine 2 out, put it in Vulcan, put a tender in the public works garage, and throw the ambulances right in our existing fire hall for 9 months until we put them in the new public safety building. If that's the venture, you know.
I would be opposed to that. We're not going to put more traffic on that main street. You already have a big enough problem. We have to keep things the way they are until we move into the new public service building. There's no way I could see us putting that ambulance on the main street right now. Absolutely not. I would not support that.
So, yeah, I agree with you, Marty, 100% on, what's there has to be factored in. You know, how you would sever a tie, what everything involved with that. As well as the fact that the ambulances are actually owned by us. And, that would be factored in on how the whole thing got started. So, Cheyenne or April, either one of you want to chime in before we try to
Yeah, sure, Mr. Mayor. How long do one of these studies last for? I know we pay the $10,250, but how long does it good for? You know, like a two-year, how do I say this? You know how we do the comprehensive plan?
Yep.
And they're probably good for about 5 to 10 years at the most, you know? Something like this, how long would this be good for?
The last 2 I seen, April, were 10 years each.
So like an ambulance feasible study would be good for about 10 years?
Well, that's what the last 2 I seen, and the one that the mayor mentioned that wasn't released yet because me and Eileen have some concerns and questions, and Jim also had questions, but it was a 10-year plan.
So, I mean, for an ambulance feasible study?
Boy, I got to imagine it's a 10-year plan. It just wouldn't be 1 or 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're going to look at market trends and, the aging population, things like that. They're going to look at demographics. Yeah, it's pretty, the last report I seen was 38 pages of data, and it was 10-year plan.
Okay. Because I feel that we're not ready for this, but maybe later down the line, I wouldn't be opposed to it. We don't have our public safety building. We don't have the means or anything to get something like this started. Yes, I think it's a great idea, Adam, that you're wanting to bring this forward and you're like wanting to start the ball moving because the end of December is the end of their contract. But I just don't think we're at that point. We've got so many, how do you say that, irons in the fire and not enough people to make sure everything's being taken care of right now. So, but I will support as long as you can tell me that this study is going to be good for, at least 5 years, that we can keep this in case, next year we can do that, or after a building is done, And I also wanted to just touch on Joe, like you said, Joe is a businessman. He said he wasn't going to share because it was in his contract that he didn't have to disclose that information. So I just wanted to say that on his behalf. Thank you.
Yeah, April, I think, I'm confident that what would come back would be what you're asking for, because the report not only has to tell us if Chisholm running their own ambulance service works today, but it has to include market trends for where we're going, if this is getting better or getting worse. So, I mean, that's the most important part of the report is this going to be harder for cities to do this or easier going forward? So I think you would get what you're looking for because we would have to. So somebody wants to make a motion to move forward with it. He said, I wish it was a budgeted item because we're going to get yelled at by Eileen. But, you know, unfortunately, we find ourselves in a position that this is the time to look at it because we have, 6 months to make a decision on Longyear.
Mr. Mayor, I will make the motion that we get an independent feasibility study for the ambulance from Baker Tilly for $10,250. And again, thanks for your hard work, Adam.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Travis. Is there a second for that motion?
Support.
Mr. Mayor, I will second the motion as long as the motion is amended to include the analysis of the existing Longyear building and the proposed additions that we would need to the public safety building.
Marty, could you say that one more time for me, please?
I would second the motion if the motion gets amended so that Baker Tilly's scope includes financial analysis of both the existing Longyear building and the contract, as well as the new public safety building and what would be required there to house the ambulance service in the new public safety building.
I don't have any issue with that. I mean, if that's necessary.
Okay. Adam, we may have to let's see if that scope's going to change the price, but we do have motion support. We'll go forward with the price the way it is, but I agree with Marty. Those two are, what, should we go forward with this? What happens with that old building? And, if the thought is to get it in public safety building, what that might end up looking like. Fortunately, we're in a position where we can make this decision because we have everything. We do have all the irons in the fire at the same time. So, all right, we do have a motion to support with that amended language on it. Further discussion, Council? Margaret?
Counselor Helverson.
Aye.
Counselor Mikala Raha.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Baki.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Okay, that motion carries. Thank you, Adam.
Well,
all right, moving on to my items here. The other side of the coin. Joe Sertich from Longyear Incorporated sent us a letter, wants to start a discussion with the city of Chisholm about how a new contract might look, start the discussion. Don't matter what happens with that study, we do need to start this discussion as well. So at the end of the day, we have both options in front of us to make a good decision. So my thought would be Travis as the ambulance service liaison for the council and maybe one other council person to go sit down with their board and kind of negotiate on our behalf to see what they're looking for an extended contract, if that's agreeable to the council.
Mr. Mayor and rest of the council, obviously, no matter what happens with that other study, we do have to make sure we have an ambulance service. I don't know if there's anyone else on this council that is more versed in the service than I am, has talked to more agencies than I have, and I don't think you're going to find someone that's going to be more passionate that's going to fight for the benefits of the citizens of Chisholm. So I would definitely love to be on this contract or this committee. I would definitely love to talk with Joe and the future of the Longyear ambulance and what that means with Chisholm. I know he wishes to retire, so I'm very curious as to how a contract extension would look with Longyear, with him stepping away, and what his plans are with the contract. So nobody objects. I would definitely love to work with Travis and Longyear Ambulance Board with that.
Wouldn't it be easier, Mr. Mayor, if we all could be a part of that discussion?
My immediate reaction would be no. Because you end up with too many discussions going on. It makes it really difficult. I don't know. April. I don't know that answer.
Mr. Mayor.
I would like to say sorry, Marty, let me just say one more thing. I would like to say I'm a little bit reluctant to put Adam on there. And I agree with everything you said, Adam. There's probably not a better person to be on there. I don't know that you could enter that committee with an open mind. It would be really hard for you because you feel there's a very good opportunity to go a different direction. Just my sense. Think about that for a second while Marty talks. Go ahead, Marty.
Yeah, getting into the council of the whole, everything needs to be discussed at a public open meeting. Otherwise, you're going to have open meeting law issues. So it has to be agenda, full council, full meetings. So I think it's better to have a committee. And Mr. Mayor, I'd be happy to serve on that committee. Thank you.
Okay.
Now also have a working session, Mr. Halverson.
April, I would agree with that too. I like the idea of putting a couple committee members. Anything that's decided everything that's decided with regard to an additional contract has to be agreed on by a council and be made transparent before we can even vote on it. So, at some point, these two committee members got to come back to the council and say, so here's what we're coming back with. And if we don't like it, we send it back and say, we don't like it. If that's the direction. That's the fail safe we have is we do have final say as a council, and it has to be done in the public. So I'm okay with the committee, and I would, like I said, no disrespect to Adam. I would lean towards putting Marty as a second person on there if he wanted to serve, just because I want to keep it. I want to just go in with an open mind on both of these things. So, Adam,
in reference to that, we did have 3 committee members on the committee to hire the city administrator. So maybe we have 3 here. I can be open-minded, and I know that if there's a contract extension that I'll support, it will definitely benefit the citizens of Chisholm. And it can be mutually beneficial, just like our contracts with our employees.
I'm okay with that too.
I'll make a motion to appoint Travis, Councillor Vaki, Councillor Halverson, and myself to the committee to meet with Long Ear Board and talk about a contract extension.
Okay. Is there a second for that?
I'll second.
Further discussion? Margaret?
Councillor Halverson.
Aye.
Councillor Mikuláraha.
Aye.
Councillor Fountain.
Aye.
Councillor Lance.
Aye.
Councillor Vaki.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Thank you, everyone. That motion passes. Okay, Brian, I'm going to ask you to help me with this. Resolution 0321-38, Minnesota Department, Fire Range Resources, Rehabilitation, Hibbing Chisholm ATV Trail Lease Agreement. Walk me through this, Brian, what exactly we're doing with these agreements, please.
Thank you, Mayor. So what we have as part of the resolution, the updated resolution for consideration here, we've got a 2-part process. The first is with the IRRR entering into a lease agreement that would allow an ATV trail extension that's been requested. And the second is the St. Louis County application to maintain an ATV trail, working together, those two documents give us the ability to work with the Tracks ATV Club or Northern Tracks ATV Club to extend that trail and provide better connectivity of the trail between Chisholm and Hibbing to allow the riding to be a lot better and to allow our communities to ride together. And my understanding and part of the resolution is that Northern Tracks has agreed to kind of handle the day-to-day maintenance and operation of the trail. And they've also agreed to pay the related fee associated with the lease, which is fairly nominal in the grand scheme of things, but is worthy of mentioning and thanking the Tracks ATV Club for, because it is $100 a month over the 10-year period. And so if there's any specific questions about the agreements, I'd be happy to answer them.
So, Brian,
one correction, $100 a year, Attorney Lindsay, $100 a year.
Yep.
So, Brian, what are the two motions? Is it two different motions we make? One's a resolution and there's the second one for something else?
No, the resolution that I had put together that I believe was distributed today, moving that resolution authorizes both it approves the lease and authorizes us to enter into that or to fill out and submit the application to maintain a trail by St. Louis County.
Thank you, Brian. Council, so this is the piece of that whole bike park we wanted to make sure got in place, and been working diligently to make sure that ATV trail has a corridor through there. So this is the final piece. So I'd make the recommendation we adopt resolution 0321-38 that basically covers the two items Brian discussed.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make that motion.
Court.
Thank you, Travis. Thank you, Adam. Further discussion? Margaret?
Counselor Halverson.
Aye.
Counselor Mikala-Raha.
Aye.
Counselor Felton.
Aye.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Vaki.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Motion carries. Resolution number 0321-39, extend local emergency unless canceled by governor's order before April 14th, which would be our next meeting. We got over $500,000 on the way to us. I'm not going to be the one that accidentally goofs that up. So recommendation would be to extend that local emergency unless it's subsequently ended by the governor.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
A motion by Councilor Lance.
Yes, sir.
Second.
Second. Mr. Mayor, I got to go to work.
All right. You're early. Okay. Further discussion? Margaret?
Counselor Halverson.
Aye.
Counselor Mikala-Raha.
Aye.
Counselor Fountain.
Aye.
Counselor Lance.
Aye.
Counselor Vaki.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. That motion carries. Council, last item on the agenda, I put it back on because, you know, with there may be a couple of months here where we're relying on Eileen to be our deputy clerk and our administrator. She's going to need some time off occasionally, and when that happens, her and I have a discussion, and I got to try to find her somebody to fill in. I typically lean on Chief Manor. It may not always be Chief Manor, and we may have to find the next most important person in the community. I look at it as longevity more than anything. That's why I kind of lean on Vern. Eileen's going to be gone Monday and Tuesday. I asked Vern if he would serve for her. The reason for putting this on tonight is I believe the step-up clause of adding $100 per day when the deputy clerk steps into the administrator position should apply to whoever we put in that position. And I just want a motion that says if Eileen takes some time off and we have to temporarily have somebody step up to be the administrator, whoever it may be, they'll be paid that additional $100. Real simple. In most cases, it's going to be Chief Manor. If that ever changes, I would let the council know. Matter of fact, we'd have to try to figure out who that might be. So that's all. Motion that basically the step up pay will give the acting administrator in Eileen's absence the extra $100 as we have in the past.
I'll make that
Happy to
motion.
make that.
Mayor.
Support.
All right, Councillor Lance, seconded by Councillor Bucky. Further
Mayor?
discussion?
Mayor, if I may,
Yes.
I just wanted to ask about how this affects the MAPE contract and if it's going to pose any issues, because it doesn't, it specifically details deputy clerk as the only person eligible for that. So I just wanted to put it out there and see how everybody feels about it.
Brian, before you answer, I want to add a second part to Eileen's question, because I thought about this after I asked Vern and a couple of times since. You know, the administrator's a appointed official, the deputy clerk's an appointed official, and then, like I said, we get right to a supervisor. We do have some other appointed officials. So, Brian, any thought on that? Do you feel like there's any reason, for example, we can't step to Chief Manor as third in line like we have numerous times? And any concerns you have, as Eileen asked, with regard to the MAPE contract, since these are temporary things?
Well, Mayor, as it relates to the first question, I don't think that there's any question that we can kind of move down our chain of command to get folks into a position where they're acting as kind of a day-to-day overall supervisor, as a clerk administrator would. As it relates to Eileen's question, or the secondary question about the MAPE union, this is probably something we'll want to talk to them about, get an MOU in place. That being said, I can't imagine that they wouldn't want to incentivize their employees, or at least reward their employees for stepping up into those leadership roles. So,
Brian, can you look at putting together an MOU for us for maybe a subsequent meeting here? And we'll just, there's no harm in moving forward with this.
No.
Usually when they grieve, we're going the other way. All right. Yes, look at putting together something that we can have a discussion with them, because, like I said, I mean, we potentially could have a couple, 3 months here, and Eileen's going to need some time off. You know, when you're doing double duty and she's going to school, I totally understand. So I want to be able to help her out with those issues. So.
Thank you, Mayor Champa. Council members, I just want to let you know I do fully support the $100 a day for the Chief Manor. Definitely. Just wanted to raise a question.
Council, anything else? If not, we'll take a vote on that.
Councillor Hill.
Aye.
Councillor Michelaraha.
Aye.
Councillor Fountain. Absent. Councillor Lance.
Aye.
Councillor Vaki.
Aye.
Mayor Champa.
Aye. Okay, that motion passes. Council, any miscellaneous items that are burning on your plate? I've been sitting at this desk doing city stuff pretty much the whole day today, so I have nothing.
How about a time limit on our meetings?
Shorter in person.
They are. I agree with that statement.
You guys
Now we can have more people. Now we can have more people in the senior center.
You know, I want to tell you something. You're talking to a deaf guy when you talk about shortening the meetings. I show up here two days a month, and I'm going to sit here until we get this thoroughly discussed. So if you guys want to shorten the meetings, you're going to have to figure out how to do that. Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Support.
Second by Marty, made by Travis. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any nays? This meeting is adjourned. Everybody have a great night.
See you, everybody.